So our program today is going to feature David Lawton, and he is our guest artist whose work has been featured in several magazines such as American Artist, Pastel Journal, and Artist Magazine. He is currently president of the Maryland Society of Portrait Painters and past president of the Maryland Pastel Society. He's past president of the Maryland Pastel Society. He is a member of several organizations such as Mid-Atlantic Plein Air Painters Association and the Pastel Society of America. He continues to exhibit his work at national competitions where he has received numerous awards. He currently teaches both privately and for Anne Arundel Community College. His work is represented by the McBride Gallery in Annapolis, Maryland. David is one of our jurors for the signature membership applications. A big welcome to David Lawton. Yay!
Let me unmute myself and put the spotlight on myself. So spotlight for everybody. Okay, so the only thing I want to correct, and I sent an email, but I must not have gotten that far to you yet. I am no longer, luckily, the president of the Portrait Society as well. It's just that I have yet to update my website, and that's my fault. Anybody that goes to my website sees that probably has only a few images, because that's one of my downfalls, is making time to put my stuff up there. But anyway, thank you very much. Like I say, I appreciate you all having me today. I hope to give you a lot of information, but what I want you to make sure, what I really want to make sure is that this is interactive. I've been teaching now for the last year, as most people have, on Zoom for the college. And it's one of these things where there's sometimes where nobody makes any comments at all, but I really want this to feel, I want this to be really interactive. So as I'm going through my slideshow, I really want people to feel free to comment and to interrupt me even. So a lot of times people, I think, are afraid to say anything because they're thinking I'm talking, but I really want you to ask questions, because that's how you're going to learn. And not only that's how you're going to learn, but one question may lead into something else that I forgot to say. So by all means, I really want you to feel that this is as much as much as in person. I was kind of sad that it wasn't in person, because like I say, I think people might have been more free to ask questions or what have you. I know how comfortable it is doing a Zoom meeting where you just turn your video off and you turn everything off and you just kind of sit back and watch what's going on. Anyway, what my plan is to go ahead and do this slideshow, and then if time allows, I will continue that with a demo. So we'll just see. As I say, I don't want to rush through the slideshow. So it's one of those things where essentially that's really what you'd all plan on me doing, as far as looking at slides of or pictures that people have sent and talking about them. So if it takes the whole time to do that, I am totally fine. It's just that if we do happen to get finished, I don't want to be like, okay, now what? And so I'm prepared to do something else. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen and do the PowerPoint. Okay, slideshow. Okay, everybody ought to be able to see that. And so the presentation for today. And so I would like to thank you for inviting me to be part of today's meeting. And it is my hope that today each of you will gain some insight on picking and using source material. Okay, some of the points that will be covered today is how to decide if, let's see, we'll need to smooth this around. How to decide if your photographs will make a good painting, pitfalls to avoid when working from photographs, the benefit of using multiple photographs, and learn a new way of looking at your photographs. Okay. It is important to point out that my comments on the photographs today are based on what I currently would consider doing to change or enhance them. By no means are my comments the only option, nor the best option, just one option to consider. Okay, so there are 4 basic stages of learning. Okay, I thought I'd put this in there. First one is unconscious incompetence. And the next stage is conscious incompetence. Then comes conscious competence. And finally, unconscious competence. And that's the stage as artists we really want to get to. Okay, so here's what it is. Unconscious incompetence is you really don't know what you don't know. Conscious incompetence, you know of a problem, but you don't know how to correct it. Conscious competence is you know how to correct the problem, but it will take time and practice. And finally, unconscious competence. And that's when you know and you no longer have to think about it. And we all kind of know when we get into the zone when we're painting, and we don't, I mean, we know all the things we've learned, and it's all kind of, we don't even have to really think about it. Now, that doesn't mean you do not think, but it's one of those cases where you just instinctively grab a color because it feels right. So you don't have to guess as to is that the right color or whatever. I'm also going to in the slideshow, I have some different quotes that I have put in. Just I think they're interesting. And so mere truth does not make a picture, and that's by Willard Huntington Wright. And most people don't know of him, but he was Courbet and Whistler were 2 of his students. So, and I put that in because a lot of people are, we have a whole generation, a whole century really, of people who they believe that photographs are accurate and correct. And so anyway, I want to kind of show you some of the discrepancies with the photographs. For those of you who are not familiar at all with my work, I just wanted to put in a couple of slides, just 2 pictures, I think is all I have in here. But this is one of my pastels, just so you can get an idea who the heck David Lawton is. Here's another one that I've done. This was a demo that I did. I was, at one point I was teaching at Chesapeake Fine Arts Center, and this was one of her one of the New Year's Day demos that I did for her. Okay, I want everybody to look at this. And some of you may be familiar with this. This is a really famous illustration, but just take a look at this for a second. And so what I want people to notice is when you're looking at this, you either looking at it from the bottom, or you're looking at it from the top, or as if you're looking into it, or you might even be looking at it from the sides as if you're going in from the sides. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, if you're looking at it from the top down into the box, it kind of looks like that. And if you're looking up at the box, it kind of looks like that. So what I want to do now, I want to go back to it. And now I want you to, if you did not see both versions, I want you to just tell your brain to look at it the other way. And the reason why I'm putting this in there is because what I really want to make the point of is that everything that all the decisions we make are really based on our brain. We think of it as our eyes are being the ones that make the decisions for us, but the reality is everything we see actually occurs in our brain. And this is a perfect example. This was a Swiss scientist actually that came up with this, and he was looking at crystals under a microscope. And what happened was he looked at it the second time, and he realized that it changed. And so he actually drew it the way he saw it, and then he realized that actually the drawing changed. And so I think we're all kind of familiar with those kind of things. Here's another one we all are familiar with probably, is the one where some people see the young girl and some people see the older woman. And so, but yet the picture does not change. And the reason why I'm starting out with this is because I want everybody to realize that when we look at our pictures, we know exactly what we're looking at because we have full intention of what our brain is telling us it is. But just because we see it one way does not mean other people see it that way. Okay, it's important to remember that if you have a clear idea of what you want to express and you proceed with confidence, people will recognize that confidence and respond positively to your painting. Okay, one of the real, everybody ought to have this book, by the way. Now, I'm sure that the book you have is probably the one that's on the left, which is Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. And so even if you don't do landscape painting, if you do anything else, this is a really good book. And I would venture to say that probably 100% of you probably have that book. The only reason why I'm pointing it out is because since I have not been to any meetings for a while, I really don't know how many new members you might have that are maybe brand new to pastel, and then maybe brand new to landscape painting. And so I would highly recommend that anybody that's new to painting would get that book that's on the left. That's a Dover book, and I think it's probably like $12. The one that's on the right, and you can see how worn it is, that's actually a copy that I actually have of the actual hardbound book. And I use that book and read that book over and over and over again. In fact, I have it here at my fingertips so that I can point out to show it to you. Anyway, that's a really good book to have. Okay, art is the expressive putting together of parts into a beautiful whole and not the parts themselves. So that's one of the quotes from John Carlson. Nature can afford to mix things up, but a picture must be an ordering of the material into the masses. That's another one of his big quotes. And then nature, this is a one that will get a lot of people. Nature is never right. I would modify this by saying that nature is seldom right. And that was a quote by him that was actually, I don't know necessarily that quote, I mean, if that's actually in the Dover version, but that's actually a quote, I mean, that's something that's actually in the hardbound book. And let's go to this one here. Okay, you don't just copy the photo, you enhance it. For example, you can push the colors or values, you move things around, or you delete the unnecessary detail. And the reason why I'm pointing out about Carlson as far as saying that landscape, or him saying landscape is never correct, is that he's making that comment in reference to you doing your painting of the landscape, and you have to be organized. So you can have a very unorganized scene that you're looking at, but you yourself have to organize it for the viewer. And that's really what he's talking about when he says it's never right. Okay, so here's, so one of the things I want to do, this is one of the photographs that I have, and I'm starting out with a couple of photographs of mine just to give you an idea of what I'm kind of talking about. So the first thing is I took this photograph. I take a lot of, I live I go by horses all the time. I'm about 2 minutes away from some farms. And so I'm always, when I go by, if I see the lights on them or whatever, I'm constantly taking photographs of the horses. And so anyway, this is one, go ahead, is that a question? Nope. Okay, so anyway, this is one of the pictures I took. And one of the ways I should really highly suggest, if you're one of these people that constantly just are copying your photograph, then the very first thing I would tell you to do is try to use 2 pictures instead of 1 picture to make your painting. And that's going to force you to immediately not just copy exactly what you're seeing. So with that said, I did this. I took that horse moved them a couple of seconds later, and I took this picture, but it happened so quick, you can see it's a blurry picture. But I actually liked the position of his head far better, that position, than the other one. So what I did is I actually took the head from this picture and I put it on there, and I left it all blurry and all, like, I mean, I just copied it and pasted it for you, and I'm going to do that for the rest of the pictures in the slideshow that if I make changes, because I want everybody to be real obvious of the fact that it's 2 pictures and what maybe I've done to change it. And so anyway, what you see, I believe, is a much better version. And like I said, the reason why I like this photograph is obviously 99% of this picture was blurry, was clear. And what you probably don't notice is I actually photoshopped some of the things on the ground just to kind of fix that. Now, I actually have never done anything with this photo or these photos. I actually did this for this slideshow today. Here's another picture that I took a number of years ago. And this is just obviously down at Ocean City. And so you look at something like this, and this could be a confusing mess of things to try to make a picture of, as far as, okay, what could I do with this? And so they're often, what I will do is, rather than, I'm always composing something when I or as much as possible, try to compose something when I take the photograph. But there's times where the light might be bad, I mean, on my screen or whatever, and I have to just kind of shoot it with the idea of hoping looking at it later and trying to come up with something from that. And so anyway, I took this photograph, and from this, I ended up seeing this, and so I cropped that out of the other one, and I actually did a pastel, a rather large pastel that from that. And so that was sort of that was the inspiration for the pastel. And here again, I actually don't mind the fact that it's blurry, because the fact that that's blurry allows me to put in whatever kind of people I want and do all kinds of different things. Here's another one. This was Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia, and I think this is a really good. I've seen a lot of pictures of Peggy's Cove, but I think this is a really good one because of from the positioning of the boats, the rowboats in front of the building and so forth. Anyway, I like this picture a lot. The problem with this picture in my mind is the sky. The sky does not fit the bottom of the picture. There's so much interest in my mind in the bottom of the picture that the sky, like I say, doesn't seem to go along with it. So that being the case, I took another picture that I have, and that was one of the pictures I used. And so I looked at the two pictures and came up with this. Now this was an oil sketch I did. I actually did a pastel of it, but before I actually even did the pastel, I did a quick oil sketch to kind of give the idea of maybe how I wanted to do the clouds, as far as the clouds going back in space, and then I just kind of blocked in some of what I hope to do in the picture. So, all right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause 1 second. I'm going through this, and I'm not even giving anybody a chance to say anything. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or whatever on what I've done so far? Nope. Okay.
This is totally cool.
Okay, totally cool. Okay.
I agree. It's
All right. Okay, well, what I'm trying to do.
And I'm curious about why you did an oil sketch instead of a pastel sketch.
What's this now? Pardon me? Go ahead. The question was what?
Well, why did you choose to do an oil sketch when your end goal was pastel?
Okay. That's a really good point. See, that's why I want you to ask questions, because when you ask a question, it immediately like, oh, I might need to talk about this. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why, first off, the reason why I did an oil is because I actually work in oil, watercolor, and in pastel. I only exhibit my oils or my pastels. But the reason why I say that's such a great question is because a lot of times if I'm trying to resolve an issue, in each medium you resolve it differently. So by doing doing this little sketch, it helped clarify a lot of things maybe that I'd want to do maybe with the pastel. The other thing about doing the oil is that unlike, as you all know from doing pastels, how you're always looking for that one color that you don't seem to have. Well, I don't have that issue if I do a little oil sketch. So if I did, and I didn't spend much time on this. This is probably an hour sketch. And so, so the idea is I do a little sketch like this, and I get an idea of, okay, do I think that's going to work? In fact, one of the things I can talk about, since I'll just mention, I'll talk about this for a couple minutes. There's a couple things I really want people to maybe pick up on this, and that is, if you'll notice, I kind of have the clouds kind of looking like they're maybe going back into the picture, as opposed to clouds just going horizontally along the picture. So I was conscious of when I did this, and I wanted to add the clouds, that I just didn't want to have a band of clouds going horizontally. I wanted to get the feeling of depth in the picture. And so I purposely wanted my clouds to kind of give the sense of movement back into space. And so I'm always looking for clouds that are actually doing that when I'm walking around or whatever. And if I see that their formation is going back in space, I definitely want to take pictures of them, because those are the ones that I would want to use in a photograph. The other thing I want to point out, which I really didn't do in this, but I actually did more so in the pastel that I did, is that when you do, actually, I probably could go back to the picture, but if I go back to the picture, the ripples on the water are probably horizontal. And you don't want to do any, you'll make your picture much more active and much more lively if you're doing any type of a seascape. If you have your waves or ripples or whatever at a bias. So if I was putting these in, like I say, when I put them in, instead of them going, if they were going horizontal like this, and I know they're going back into space, I would purposely make sure that the waves are going back at a diagonal. And that's going to immediately make your picture much more active. So anyway, so that's why I did did this. I often in the beginning would actually do like I love doing still life. In fact, let me just talk 1 second. I got plenty of time. Let me just talk a couple of minutes about myself. I actually started art at a very young age, and obviously you learn to do oils. So that was initially my training was in oils. But when I was actually 16, I had the opportunity to spend some time in, actually the whole summer in Scotland on the West Coast. And all I did there was landscape. And I learned to love to do landscape. But the problem was I didn't know how to mix color very good. And so I was always frustrated by how fast everything changed. And so that's where I got this idea. That was one of the places where I got the idea of, hey, if I could just grab a pastel, that would be a color without having to mix it. That would be so much faster. And so that's what I decided to do. And I mean, as far as I decided, I wanted to learn to do pastels. But by that point, I actually knew how to paint still lifes and so forth. So I decided that the best way to learn pastel, since at that time there weren't all these organizations and all that kind of stuff like you have today, I actually learned really by doing still life. And what I would literally do is I'd have one easel set up to where I did it in oil, and then next to it I'd have another easel set up where I would try to do it in pastel. And I would learn various things from each, like I say, from each medium. So anyway, so that's how I kind of got involved in really doing pastel. So let's see. Here's another picture that I took. I love doing. I love taking these pictures of in the museums or whatever. And I actually like the idea of people watching, or the people looking at the artwork, because normally normally the people are the ones that are active, but a lot of times it's the painting that everybody's looking at and the people are kind of just there. And so anyway, I walked into this room and immediately I saw a painting. There was one doubt in my mind. I saw a painting, so I had my camera with me. I took the picture. And so here's the painting that I did from that. So that's the pastel. I say painting, I actually mean pastel. So, but anyway, that's the pastel that I did from that little image that was there. So that's why you're always looking for images. And there again, I'm not trying to copy the photograph per se. I'm using the photograph as a reference, and I'm making it my own. Okay. By making some edges softer and going back, to where they disappear. That ties your object into the background. That's one of the problems. Here, let's go back 1 second. Let's do this. One of the problems that you always have with photographs is you tend to have hard edges everywhere. And that, for 90% of the time. Obviously, there's cases where that doesn't happen. But essentially, the edges can be really hard, and you're always looking for those places where those edges merge into the background, because that ties your object into the background. I tell my students that you never want to paint anything to where you can cut it out with scissors. So if you make a shape and you can cut it out with scissors, then then you want to try to do something to make that shape a better shape. So, all right. So anyway, here. Oh yeah, I'm going the wrong way. There it is, and there's that. And okay, so now we're going to get into your stuff. So here was one of the pictures that was sent to me. And I did not bother to put anybody's names on these pictures for several reasons. A, that would have been a little bit more work for me, but that really wasn't the issue. The real issue is I don't want anybody to feel like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to know everybody's going to know I did that or whatever, have you. So my typical, when I do slideshows for people like this, I typically, unless they specify that they want the images, the names, I don't put any of them in there. So anyway, here's a photograph. And so the person that did this, by the way, as we go on with these pictures, and the rest of them now are going to be ones you all sent me. But as I go through these pictures, feel free, if this is one of your pictures, to unmute yourself and to ask questions, make comments, or whatever. And the reason why that I say that is because, I'm looking at these pictures, and I have, obviously it's the first time, let's say, I've seen them, and I don't know what it is about the picture that excited you, or what it is that you really wanted to capture in it. And so that's why, so when I make my comments or do any changes or whatever, it may be totally against what you're feeling or what you wanted to express. So anyway, so the one thing I see with this, in my mind, it's all about the little boy in the water, okay? And I love the feeling of the swirls of the water and so forth. But the thing that hurts it the most, as far as if you just copied this, let's say, as it is the sidewalk. The sidewalk seems to be that big shape that doesn't seem to fit it. So one of the things that I would do, so the other thing about this, so the sidewalk, let me just use the pointer here. So this, so obviously this shape here is going, looks like it doesn't really feel like it's laying down. It kind of feels like it's going up off the page, and because of the angle of the camera. And then the other thing that really that I think needed to be corrected maybe is the lights in the background, because I know that that's where the storefront is and that's where the lights are coming from. But the reality is, if I really wanted it to be about the little boy, the lights in the background are competing with that, and it needs to be knocked down. So, so what I did is I went ahead and took this picture, and I went ahead and did this. I cropped it, and now it's more about the little boy. And what you can see, and there again, like I said, I want to make sure it's real obvious what I did, is you can see I dulled down the windows in the background so that they're not the brightest thing. So now, if I was painting this, or pastel, some of the brightest colors would be in the lightest colors would be in the water that's at his feet. Okay. And the question that I took out the one person, there was a person that was over here on the left that I took out, and these two people, they could be taken out. Let's say, I really kind of think it's the interaction between the father taking the picture. And so you could really, you could actually make it really about that by playing them up, and then the mother and the other couple, you could play those down. So, anybody have any comments on this? Somebody? Yes? No? Maybe?
This is a very useful crop. Thank you.
Okay.
I did some cropping on this photograph, but this is not what I chose.
Okay, so let me just ask you this. So one of the things, like I say, is when you take a picture or you're looking at a picture to do, you have an immediate idea of what it was all about. So I'm really curious, when you took this, or not, what was your intention? Was it really about the little boy and the interaction, or was it? Or
it was about the little boy, and I actually took several photos. So this is only one. Excuse me, and. He was just having such a great time at night when you'd think he should have been in bed playing in the water. And it was just so much fun to watch him.
Okay. So what I would do, so what I would tell you to do is look at all the other photos that you have of him. The one that you have, by the way, works really well. But you may also have other photos of him that you actually feel work better. So, so anyway, before I would actually decide that that's, out of all the photos of him, that's the one that I'm going to use. And let me just say this real quick. A lot of people, I'm using Photoshop to do this, but I also know that a lot of people do not have the capability nor want to do Photoshop. So let me just give you a couple of alternative ways of doing this. First off, a lot of these pictures, a lot of times, if I was doing something from a photograph, I don't have to do anything at all, because like I was showing in the beginning, where everything is made up in your brain, you're making the picture up in your brain. I can just mentally know what I want to do and not have to actually do an example of it. So a lot of times I will just make the changes mentally, let's say. But if I really wanted to see what it was like, as far as moving something, or if that's the right size. Let's say I picked a different background and I wanted that little boy in a different picture to get him to be the right scale. Then I studied with the Egleys, and the Egleys, they're in their 80s now, and obviously Jeanette Egley never wanted to really learn about Photoshop. She has her students or whatever that were willing to help her and do all that for her. So when she makes these changes initially, she actually will print it out, use scissors and cut the shapes out, and she'll do it that way. So she literally cuts and pastes the different things to where she thinks it's going to be. And what she'll do is she'll cut and paste things and say, I think I want the picture of the person over here, and she'll give it to one of the people that she knows that does Photoshop, and they'll say, okay, I'll do that for you. And so anyway, that's how she does it. So you don't have to have these fancy programs. The other way to do it is you can literally, if you print something out, then you can actually just make your changes right on your print, and I mean on your copy. And so that works as well. All right, so yeah, so anyway, that's what I think with this. Let's go to this one. Okay, so here's a nice landscape. But here and there's all kinds. This is one of those pictures that you could do a million things with. Okay, so really good. In a lot of ways, it's a good picture. There are a couple things though that right off the bat, I know that I would definitely change if I was painting it. And one of the things that we all kind of know is, first, the darks always are too dark, and usually the lights are blown out. Okay, so that's one of the things. So you can see right off the bat, if I look over in this area over here, these are too dark, and this trio back here is too dark. I would be one to say that this here is could be a little bit lighter. So when I look at pictures, any picture, then immediately the thing I go to in the picture is where the darkest dark is against the lightest light, or where the where the most color is. Because usually a picture or a painting, that's where you want to. If I'm looking at a painting, I definitely going to notice that. But even when I'm looking at a photograph, I want to know where those things are, where those places are, because I know that those are places that I might have to change. Because if the darkest dark is nowhere near where I want the center of interest, I know I'm going to have to change that. So anyway, what I did with this picture was I did this. First off, I cropped it. Let me go back, you can see it again. There was way too much sky in my mind. It's competing with the landscape, and I really wanted to feel like it's a landscape and not about the sky. Now, this is one of those cases where you obviously could have put something in the sky to make it more interesting, but really, I think of this as being cropped down, something like that. And now, proportion-wise, the sky, now it's really about the stream or the river, and the sky kind of complements that. And here again, I didn't do as many changes. When I make these changes in these pictures, obviously I could I could work all day on one of them and change things and put all kinds of things in. But this is one of these pictures where I could easily see putting a little fisherman in, putting a little, if you had a little fisherman on the shore here, casting his rod, or actually a fly fisherman in the water, that would work. You could have a canoe or something like that in the water. And that would give, because what it doesn't really have is, not that every picture needs to have this by any means, but you want to have it one area where you're coming back to over and over. And so that's why if you're just going to be a landscape where there's nothing to really kind of keep on coming back to, you would want to emphasize one area of that so that your eye is going to keep on coming back to that. This is a picture also that kind of goes from near to far. So I see this clump in the front that I would go from that to maybe jump to this to go back here and then back out of the picture. So it's a really nice picture. I just think you could even add more things to make it even more exciting. Okay, so this is another picture. It's really funny. Well, I don't know who took this. I don't know when they took it, but I actually have several students. I actually have some students that come here to my studio, and I have several students that recently took some pictures like this and actually did pastels of them. And I was almost thinking about putting those in the show to show you, but obviously that's not what you came here to do, so I didn't. But anyway, so the thing about this picture, I really like it. You could almost just do it right like it is and make an interesting pastel. But the one thing that I see that what needs to be changed, let's say, in my mind, is there again, remember I say you go to the darkest darks? So this one up here, even though that's supposed to balance, counterbalance the big one, because it's so dark, it gets a lot of attention. So in my mind, what I would do is I would do something like this, where I lighten that up, and now, and I could have more color in the flower. I didn't go back and put it in. I want it to be obvious that that's lighter. But now, obviously, the way that it is in this picture, you see what the star is. So there's no doubt what the star is, and your eye goes to that. So does anybody want to comment on this? And it doesn't have to be the person, by the way, that's picture. So anyway, people.
That was terrific, actually. It's not my photo, but the difference is amazing.
Well, that's one of the things about these slideshows. I've done a number of slideshows for my students. I did a whole, I did a special slideshow where they sent things in, and I did this, and they really got a lot. So you'll know at the end whether you get something out of this or not. But they seem to get seeing the before and seeing the changes, or seeing how it can change. Really, I think it opened up their eyes a lot from the idea of not necessarily wanting just to copy what's there, and how you can maybe make a subtle change and actually make it stronger. And like I say, there's other things I would have made. Since I just talked about this, I would have made sure that each one of these green, the lily pads was different, had different colors in it. So there again, I would have decided first. Okay, obviously I know that none of these colors in this picture are accurate for what I would have seen if I was standing there. And so so that gives you also a lot of freedom to put colors in or whatever, or things in that are going to make it work as a painting. And so that was one of the most disappointing things for me years ago. Was I would go out to all these places and take these photographs back in the days when it was cameras, right? And I'd spend I'd get 3 or 4 rolls of film and get them developed, and have to wait days to get them. And then I would get all these pictures back, and I wouldn't use any of them. I have more. I did not. In fact, I just take a second to say this as well. Is that I actually never really started using. I never started working from photographs for anything that I would actually put in a show or anything like that until probably about 10 years ago. It might even been sooner than that. But the reality was, that was the first time I taught people how to use their photos or whatever. But I just noted the differences are so radical that I would always prefer to just see things from life and do it that way. Okay, so this is a really interesting picture, and the person's there. It's like one of these old rundown buildings or whatever. And this is one of the few pictures I didn't modify yet. And because I figured some of these pictures I could just talk about or whatever, as far as you could see, issues or whatever. And so obviously, if I was looking at this picture, there's no doubt that you talk about the darkest dark, it goes to the window. So if you wanted to go right into the building, then that kind of works. But I don't want it to feel like it's this solid dark. So so anyway, what I would do is I would have that be a little bit lighter. I might even have something in there or whatever, so you could almost feel a little bit of a light coming in there. But the one big thing that hurts this picture is the value of this bush that's up close is awful similar to the distant bush that's behind it. And if I wanted to get any sense of depth, which you don't have to get, by the way, in a picture, but if that was what my goal was, to get this to be about the feeling of some sort of a depth, then I would definitely have to change back here so that this bush would go back, so that it wouldn't feel. In fact, you could. There again, this might be one of those cases where what I would do is actually take that whole bush out, look for a picture that had a better background, and make it look like this building was on a field or something like that, tucked in on a corner of a field. So because the reality is, you're doing these pictures, but nobody knows when they see it in a show or in a gallery or whatever, nobody really knows what they're not comparing it to any source material. No one's going to be judging you and say, oh, you didn't put this in, or you didn't put that in, or what have you. And I really kind of learned that, by the way, from doing these plein air events, or watching these even just watching these guys do these plein air events. As you all know, often you'll look at what they're looking at, and then you'll look at their painting, and as some of these guys, you look at what they're doing, and you think, oh my gosh, it doesn't look anything like what I'm looking at. And so some of the guys are much more free to make changes than others. Some people try to literally, and that's why I think so many people have a hard time doing landscapes, because what happens is you go out with the idea of you're going to find this thing. You've seen these beautiful pictures, and now you want to go out and you want to find something that looks like that beautiful picture that you've seen, and you walk. The reason why I'm saying this is I used to do it myself. I must have walked 100 miles in a day, and walked from almost sun up to sundown, and never stopped to paint, because I always thought the best view was going to be right over that next ridge. And anyway, that's when I started. That's when you realize that you have to see the picture. Okay, so
Before
anyway.
you move on, I have a question.
Yeah.
The windows, I'm wondering how you would crop this or move it over, because the window is right in the middle.
Yeah. So, okay. So there again, unfortunately, so you're right. So what I could do is, well, let's do this way. I might be able to do this. I could do something like this. So instead of that being a window that's there, I could make this a longer window. So now this window is not going to be just a little window. I probably should have had a break in it. But anyway, so I mean, that's one of the things I could do to, without just moving that little window like it was, I could have actually made this I could have made it, let's do this. I could have made that, watch this. I can do this. And that's why I was saying before how there's multiple solutions, right? This could have been, it might be a little bit high for a door, but I could have made that into a door. So this could have been a door. And so now this was, this is a door into this shack or whatever. If I left that, it could look like the door was open, maybe a screen door. But see, if I do something like that, see, that ties it now. Now what that does is that, in some ways that helps, because now you don't have it, remember what I talked about, a shape that you can cut out with scissors doesn't work? Well, now that dark goes right into the dark below, and now it kind of helps things. So actually, I think that feels better to me than just that window. And but you're right. You could have moved that. I could have moved that a little bit over one way or the other, made it. But that's the one. If I'm talking about all these little things, like I say. So here's a couple other things I might point out that are. I'm not really going to be I'm not going to do a whole lot about composition, because of the fact that that's going to be handled, I think, in the next in the January meeting. But a couple of things I will point out is you got to be careful about having. You got to be really careful about having this this up here, this light right in the corner. So that's going to be a problem, because it's going to want to pull your eye right out of it. Same thing with these little limbs. So those limbs that are up here, I probably would have lowered them. See, they're right there in the picture. I would have moved them, so instead of it being up there, I might have had it like that there. And now it's not going to be right up in the corner. So those are a couple other little things that and that's the nice thing about trees. You can, as long as you're honest, as long as you respect the type of tree that it is, and kind of try to put a limb that's going to fit that type of tree, you can put limbs anywhere you want. I could take this limb and move it out like that if I wanted a limb out of the page like that, rather than have it feel like it was cut out. And so there's all kinds of things you can do with trees to help your composition. Hopefully that helped. All right, here's another picture. And
if I could interrupt,
yeah.
I have never been able to learn Photoshop. I think it's horribly complex, and I never have a comfort level with having to pay a subscription and not owning the software.
Okay.
There is a product that's been out for a couple of years that I've played with a little bit called Luminar. And
Okay.
it allows you to build a library of skies. And you can go through and quickly and easily change from one sky to the other. And when it does that, it also changes the shadows and the reflections in the foreground. Because when we're doing that, we're not trying to come up, in my mind, we're not trying to come up with a photograph that's going to hang on the wall. We just
Right.
want a better sketch to paint from.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right now, I'm after seeing a couple of Zoom things from the Pastel Society I'm a member of in Florida. I bought myself a new iPad, first Apple product I've bought in years, and something called Procreate. It's a $10 application that lets you take a photograph like this, and you can use brushes, smear, change textures, and it all seems like it is much, much easier than Photoshop ever thought of being.
Absolutely.
$10 application.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I concur with everything you said. In fact, I have an Apple iPad and I have Procreate on it. And what I actually do, I mean, I use it all the time as a tool for showing people where they're off, because I do know, I mean, for some people, even Procreate takes a little bit, everything has a little learning curve. So let me just say this first off. I know next to nothing in Photoshop. I know just enough to get myself probably in real trouble. That's because, just like you say, it's really meant for somebody that's that does a lot of this design stuff and wants to make these finished pictures. And I just, like I say, I really, I'm more comfortable probably with Procreate than I am obviously with Photoshop. And that's another reason why these pictures don't look really any fancier, because I don't want to take any time to try to make them any better. But just to let people know, there's something called GIMP. And so GIMP, just let people know, and that's unfortunately probably just as complicated as Photoshop. But GIMP is, what it was is, there were people who, engineers or whatever, or there's just artists or whatever, that decided that, you know, there's no way I'm going to pay that kind of money. This was years ago they did this. They weren't going to pay the money for Photoshop. So they were going to come up with all that stuff and have it out there for free. And so there's books on GIMP and there's all kinds of things. The only thing I will say, and I just want to make sure everybody's clear on this, is that because it's something that you download, just make sure that if you are one of the few people that decide to download GIMP, just make sure that you're actually downloading a legitimate version and not some sort of a thing that's going to have viruses or any of that. That's my only. That's the only thing I would say to worry. You have to worry about.
Hey, David, there were two quick questions about
Yeah.
Luminar and Procreate. Are they both only for Apple?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about Luminar. Unfortunately, Procreate, yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't think, I've sort of looked, and I didn't see where Procreate really runs on either Android or Windows. And much as I'd love to rant about what a bunch of thieves Apple is, I bought an iPad because all the reviews that I looked at out on YouTube, and there's thousands of them on all these various computer solutions to this sort of thing. And Procreate seems like, it's the class of it. So, and how can you go wrong for $10? A year of Photoshop is like 120, and I'll learn it today. I'm 78. I've forgotten to pay it by supper time.
Yep.
I'm hoping I'm going to be able to learn how to use the brush, because I really started it. I've felt the urge to try and do abstracts, and it's a great way to take a photograph and abstract it.
Okay. So now, see, that's why I want questions, because what you just led me into, I mean, by saying that, now my brain is swirling, because I want to tell you all about it's Mark. There's somebody that's online Marco Bucci, I think is what his name, but it's I'm trying to think. Let's see. Anyway, there's somebody online. I'll think of his name in a minute. I know all these names are running through my head together. But the point is, there's somebody that you can go online, and he's using Procreate to do pastels. And he's actually come up with pastel brushes. I mean, he has come up with, so Procreate has a bunch of tools that you use to do your painting or whatever. And this guy that I'm going to tell you about, all he does is stuff that's on digital. So he doesn't paint, he doesn't do real pastels like we do. He does it all digitally, but he does really wonderful stuff. And he, like I say, he wants it to look like a pastel. So he actually has a set of brushes. I think that's like $10 or something like that. And you can, and I haven't done that. I haven't downloaded his brushes or whatever. But the point is, he's got a whole video, on YouTube, where you can watch him do something with this Procreate, make a pastel. It looks like a pastel, and that's under Proko. Proko is the name. So there's a guy named Proko, Proko, and if you go to his website, and he's got all these downloadable things. And probably the best way to do it, if you go to this guy, Proko, if you go to his store, where you can look in the store and you'll see where he talks about these brushes for pastel, for Procreate. And that'll give you the name of, and you can find the YouTube of the one to watch. But anyway, but yeah, that's, yeah, the digital, I mean, like I say, it's amazing what they can, people can do. And like I say, I just use it, like I say, for what I'm doing today. And I actually, like I say, I really don't do much for myself with it. So, all right, so let's keep on going here. We'll go. But like I say, thanks for all those questions, because that's what leads me to something else.
In defense of Photoshop, there are a lot of tools that you can learn, like sky replacement, and a subscription makes sure that you get the latest version of it. I also don't know enough of it to be a professional, but I know enough to do what I need to do.
Yeah, yep, that's what we kind of do. We kind of find enough stuff to do what we want to do. So anyway, there was the picture before. Let me go back again. So there it is. And so when I saw this picture, and the person that did it can unmute themselves, but when I saw this, one of the things that I saw, it's a great photo. I mean, I think it's a great, this has so many possibilities. You could do, here again, something like this. You could do umpteen versions using that picture. But one of the things I did, so first thing I did, I saw the sky, and I want you to notice how I made like a Z kind of shape with the sky. So it's like, if you look at this, I kind of went down this way, because when I'm seeing this picture, it's kind of like a Z shape. So I kind of come in this way, go back this way, and then go up and out. So I'm kind of responding to that kind of a pattern. And so I would kind of maybe do something like that with the sky. The one thing I did, a couple things I did with this is I kind of lightened up back here so that maybe goes back a little bit. I was unsure whether I wanted to do this or not, but I lightened up this tree that was over here on the left, so it made it clearly like a foreground. And then this is something back here. And there's, so anyway, my eye sees the foreground, goes back into the middle ground, and goes out of the picture. So I think this has I'm not sure, I guess they're deer. I think they're deer in the field. I wouldn't, they're not clear enough that I would put those in. It was one of those things where, to me, this picture is obviously not about the deer. It's about, the distance and going back. It's really about maybe almost the sky. So that's the other thing. You could have cropped this. So this could have been something that was cropped, and which I didn't do, but I could have cropped this thing, and it could have been something that's, if you crop that, it could have almost been, I probably would have cropped it down here, so show some of this, and then crop some of that sky, and then it's more about a sky picture rather than all this. So anyway, so there's this one. So here's another picture. Now here's another one that I didn't modify. I like the idea that it kind of goes back. It goes back in diminishing sizes. So in other words, when I see the sizes of these flowers up the cone, I think they're called cone heads or cone flowers anyway. They're obviously, these feel closer. Then back here's the middle ground, and then they get lighter as they go, or smaller as they go back. The only thing you have to watch with this, I'll just say this, I probably should have modified this. I picked other ones easier, or that were easier for me to do, as I guess I started with. But the one thing I see about this that you got to really watch is the pattern. You come in from this and you follow this, and if you're not really careful, let me use the laser so you can see this. If you're not really careful, your eye goes right out of the picture. So I probably should have done it. I probably would have maybe taken this part of the picture, maybe made it wider over this way if I wanted, and I might have had the people, if I wanted to put people in it, let's say, I might have had people over here, so they literally, just like if I do something like this, it's going to stop your eye, and you're going to, so if I put something like this here, and then go down this way, then this is going to stop your eye from going out of the picture. So if I had somebody that was here, and you're walking back, then you can see how that's going to stop your eye, and then then that could be redirected to something else. So that's how I would do it if I wanted to do it about the flowers, let's say. I mean, obviously, they're in shadow in the foreground, so it pulls you into the middle ground, and that's usually, in any painting, your eye kind of wants to spiral right to the middle. So in the middle of this picture, that's really where your eye really wants to go. And but anyway, that's what I think about this one.
Dave, how about flipping it vertically? The picture and make up the foreground.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, you could do it right. Yeah, you could do it. I mean, it's endless. It's endless possibilities with these things, and that's why they talk about. I mean, you all hear all these artists. First off, what I'm sharing with you today, you've all probably heard a million times by everybody. The only thing that might happen is I might be putting a little different spin on something, and all of a sudden something clicks. And so, but we're all talking the same thing. There's nothing new there's nothing that I'm saying that probably other artists, you've not heard from other artists. And so that's where they do talk about doing these little thumbnails, because you do a thumbnail and say, okay, what would it look like if I did it vertically? What would I do? What would it look like if I did it horizontally? What would it do? So yeah, so it's endless. And that's, and the only problem with this endless stuff is that if you get yourself if you have too many choices, then you're kind of going in this endless circle and you never do anything. So that's where I try to limit like how many choices I make. Usually your initial feeling is the strongest. So a lot of times I would come back to my initial feeling. That's why I say when you have a picture, or you're looking at a picture you're going to do, you should have a clear idea of what it was about that picture you liked. And that's one of the things that's why it's really important that you take your own photographs. Okay, I know that there's so many people that want to like take stuff off the internet and use and all that, and but the reality is you have no connection to that. But I guarantee you, if you take the photograph, then you have a connection with that photograph that you don't even have to, you immediately know why you took that photograph. And you immediately know if it was about the color that you saw, how different the color is from what you're seeing in the photograph. So, okay. Oh, so, okay, so here's another photograph, another flower picture. And you can see in this one here that it's a flower, like a garden center maybe, or something like that. And I like this photograph a lot. I actually had thought of taking the flower pots out and moving them or whatever, and putting some people. I actually have a couple pictures. Unfortunately, I didn't spend a lot of time. I mean, I got so many different pictures, old pictures, but I had a couple of pictures of some women that were looking at flowers at the flower show, and they were kind of bent over looking at them, and that would have been a perfect picture to add to this and to show you how you combine two pictures to make it into one. Unfortunately, I couldn't easily find that picture, so I did not do it. But what I did do is this. I cropped it. And now what I did is I cropped it and made it more of a horizontal picture. It's more about the flowers in the front. But then I was thinking, you know, I like this yellow flower that's the yellow there, because it's all, see, the fact that that's yellow and all the other ones are these different colors, I mean other colors, that yellow kind of pops out. So then I thought, okay, well, let's do this. Maybe make the baskets, initially I was going to take the baskets all together out, out altogether. But then I thought, well, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some of the yellow baskets, and then they would all be kind of connected. So that's kind of what I came up with as far as a simple idea. And see, something like this is clear enough for me to kind of do something from, because and that's why I talk about not copying it. If it's too detailed, then you're going to get into that loop of like trying to make it look exactly what's there. And so anyway, hey, there's a famous story, or no, there's a story about Cezanne, not Cezanne, anyway, there's this famous story of this artist, I can't think of his name all of a sudden, and he got glasses, and he took his glasses, he went to an eye doctor, got the glasses, and he immediately took them off after he looked through them, and he said, my God, get rid of these things. I'm looking, I see like Bouguereau. And Bouguereau was one of these ones the artists that did unbelievable detail. And so, anyway, it was Renoir, by the way. It was Renoir was the artist. He had to get glasses, and that's the story, is that he, and the reason why I kind of thought about that or whatever is I actually wear glasses. I have really bad eyes. And you will not see me painting with my glasses on, because the beauty is everybody's got to squint. Well, I don't have to squint. So I don't have glasses on today. I don't have glasses on when I paint. So for me, I'll put them on at the end and see what it looks like, but that's it. All right, so here's another beautiful picture of
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you wear sunglasses when you're outside or playing?
I wear sunglasses all the time now, because I'm getting older, right? I'm getting older, and I worry about cataracts, and
right.
I know that the UV light is really bad for cataracts. And so luckily, when I go and have my eyes checked, they say that it says that my eyes are pretty good right now. I might have some signs of cataract, but it's so far away, it wouldn't even do anything for whatever. But
Okay.
yes, I do I worry about the, in fact, if I go back to the screen, maybe you can see now, because I guess you all can see me, but I wear long sleeve shirts, I wear long sleeve pants, long sleeve shirts and pants. It could be 100 degrees outside. And because I worry about, I've had a couple of cases of skin cancer, and anyway, that's one of the things I really worry about. And so, anyway, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so, like I say, this picture here, the question is, it's all about her, I guess. And so, but there's definitely some things about it that I think could make it better. And so the very first thing I want everybody to see, in my mind, is, this arm, this foreshortening, this arm's a terrible arm, because it's not clear what the heck it is. And so it's a real difficult position to put an arm, and it doesn't really, even in the photograph, and you'd say, well, that's what it looks like. Well, it doesn't really read as an arm coming out. And so because of that, I would definitely change that. And then the other thing is, if I was doing a picture with her, I think it would be I'd want to make it about her and make sure that my eye stayed up here. And I'm worried about coming down this way and being more of my eye has like a divided, comes down to the contrast, because your eye comes down here because of the contrast of color. So what I ended up doing for this one was I went ahead and did this. And so I made it look like she's got a longer dress on. I kind of put her arm, you see, I put it, it's like, okay, let me just put her arm looking straight down or whatever. I was thinking about putting her arm in a case where I could put one of those flowers or whatever, or wheat or whatever, into her arm, you know, so it looked like she was holding it and having some of the color or whatever that. I was thinking about doing something like that. I'm not sure I'd want to, I mean, it looks like she had cut this. See, these look like pruning shears. And I don't necessarily know that I'd want to put that in, you know, that's why I say you got to know what the story's about. Because if it's specific about, you know, that was really important that she cut that thing and all that, then that might be important. But I like how I just have a hint of her legs and even her feet. I just have a hint of them there, so it's enough that your brain. See, that's another thing, another really interesting thing, and I guess we know more and more about how people actually see things. And it's mostly come within the last, probably, I'm going to say 10 years. And so a lot of the ideas of how we see has been changed based on the stuff that's coming out now. And so the reality is, and that's the other thing, when I paint, I try to paint the way I see things. And by that, I mean that where I'm looking is clear, but everything else is kind of, is out of focus, so to speak. And so, as you know, like further up, you know, you hold your hands to the side, they're more and more fuzzy the further you get to the side. So we have a very small, narrow vision. But like on this, there's enough there that your brain tells you, oh, that's her legs, and oh, that must be her feet down there, and that's it. And now, but your eye doesn't go there, it doesn't stay there, because keeps on going back to her, goes back to her head, let's say. Even these reeds point up towards her, and they kind of work. So these things are pointing up. These that are kind of blowing over this way, I kind of downplay them. I can play the ones that are going up. I might even have a couple of these kind of going over top of her, and then that would make it feel like that would even get more of a sense of depth, not that one. But anyway, yeah, so not this one here. Okay, so let's go to the next picture. Okay, here's
Really quick, I just wanted to say thank you. That was huge help because that arm was really bugging me. So that made a lot more sense. That's wonderful.
Right. And I'm not saying I would leave it straight. I guess I could talk about this real quick.
But it gave it an opportunity to say I could do something else with it. It just woke up my mind to that, as well as those pliers. It's really more about her picking the flowers. So
yeah,
what a great idea.
Okay, well, thanks. But you know, this isn't a figure class or anything like that. But if I just talk real quick about a figure, and actually not even just figure, actually everything you do, almost everything in life has an active side and a passive side. That's why when you put a brush stroke down, one side should be hard edge, the other side soft edge, let's say, or whatever. You know, it's one of those things where, or let's say let's put it this way. You start your brush stroke, even with your pastel, start your brush stroke where you push it down first. That's going to maybe be the hardest point. And then as you lift up and take that stroke out, it's going to be a softer edge towards the end. And so that goes to this idea of passive. And so in figures, a lot of times you're going to see one side of the figure you want to have active, and then the other side, so you'll see something like this. That's why you'll see so many of these poses where you're going to see somebody that, you know, you have this, let me just do this. So you'll have the person's head, and then they come down, and then they'll have, let's say maybe this arm going like this. So if I do this, and then this side here is just straight down. So this is and then the hips lay me here. So in other words, this side over here, obviously, this side here is the active side, and then they'll balance that by having a straighter side on this side. And so that's a really common thing that you want to look for. Because if I did it to where you had both of them, so if I did it something like this, and I had something like that, you know, something, let's say this is a person, and I did this, then there's no active and passive. You know, it's like they're both equal, and you're not really sure where the heck you should be looking. And so that's why, like I say, a lot of times you'll see the figures or whatever where it's clearly obvious an active side and a passive side. All right, so here's a photograph. Now this is one of these pictures where I think it probably was best left as a photograph. It's all about the textures and about and the reason why I say left as a photograph is because you know, I mean, there's things about it that I would probably have changed if I wanted to make it into a picture, a pastel. But I don't necessarily know it's going to make a great pastel, because one thing is this arm here, this hand here is getting tucked. See, I would almost rather have that arm come down like this, and then so arm kind of be bent this way, so where it's, you know, it's coming out a little bit. I mean, or even coming out this way some. Probably should have used something other than black so you could see that. But anyway, right now that hand is getting hidden too much for me, for her being active, let's say. And so, because people are going to want to know, you know, if I did that, if I had her arm like that, okay, I could leave her arm just like that. I would pull her dress back a little bit so it's not covering her hand, and have a hint of her hand showing to where you can see that's clearly what her hand is. Obviously, I'd get rid of the person at the top with the this. You don't need this guy up here because he takes away from her. And so this is a moment in time. So the reason why I say this obviously is a better photograph is because it's frozen in time. And you also have to kind of watch, you know, you have to watch pictures that look like they're frozen in time, meaning you would never see somebody's hair that was like that unless it was frozen. And so it's one of those cases where I think it probably makes a better photograph than it would be a picture. So that's just me thinking that. And let's go to this one. Okay, here's another. I don't know whether the person was here for this one, but this picture is another one where I kind of wonder. My question is, what was the inspiration for this, other than its, you know, interesting building? And so, and that kind of leads me into this part about, remember how I said everybody looks at things differently, and that's why you could have 10 people or 100 people go out and do the same exact landscape, and every picture is going to look different, because the person that's the architect, he's going to look at it and say, wow, look at that stone building. That's a really interesting old building. And the person that's is an arbor that knows the trees, they're going to look at it and they say, look at that elm tree or maple tree or oak tree or whatever, because they know what kind of tree it is, and they know that that's an unusual tree for that area. And somebody else is going to look at it and knows something else, right? Anyway, for this picture here, the thing I think that it's missing is it's missing some sort of a focal point that I keep on coming back to. So it's a nice picture as far as nice big shapes, but the reality is my eye kind of goes around the whole picture nicely, but it doesn't kind of settle on anything. So this is a picture where which here again I didn't do, but I was thinking of doing. I could see a bunch of ducks or something in this water, and these little ducks or whatever. If I put these ducks in here going down this water, then that would be my center of interest. And maybe I wouldn't put them there. I might have them back, you know, something back this way. But that's where if I had something in the water there, then that would be where you're going to look. And so that's what I kind of think about this. If I wanted to open up this area over here on the left, I could open up these trees so that there's a little bit of a gap in here, and it felt like some of that, so that there was more air on this side of the picture. There's air on the top, but I might want to, and you know, this side's closed in. I might want to open up this a little bit so it felt like, because right now this river or whatever is going back this way. I might want to feel that I can go back and then slip out of the picture that way. So that's
David, that is so helpful. This is a picture I took in France, and I've wanted to do something with it, but I felt like there was almost something there, but it wasn't really.
Okay.
And it's because it wasn't.
Okay. Well, like I say, there could be a lot. You know, like I say, that your eye's going back down this way, so it's going back, but you want it to go. But like I say, if this was opened up a little bit to where, first off, lighter. I would probably at this point here make it lighter. So I would, let's see. Let me get I'm trying to get my pointer here. Okay, this pen. Let's see this color. Okay, I would probably maybe say this. Like at this point over, I'd make all this lighter, or have some of that disappear, so and then that's where, like I say, I'd have this opened up. So maybe I'd have from there to these little lines lighter. So it looked like there was some trees way in the distance. Then, but from let's see if I can do it with blue. From over here, I would have it be, I would have this, that's not, see, it's looking a funny color green. But anyway, over here, I'd have it open. So where this looked like it was opened up, so it went back into another village or something like that. Anyway, I think, like I say, a lot of potential. The only thing you have to watch, because I even thought about, I thought about this. I worry a little bit about. I mean, this is awful strong air. I mean, this works really well, but you have to worry about or watch this little alcove, or the little this thing up here. I might change that. I would definitely change the color of that door, so that door didn't wasn't a focal like pull my eye. So if this door was the same color, let's say, as the rocks or something like that, then it wouldn't be, because that's, if you look at the picture, this little red, it's actually like a burnt, burnt sienna color, light burnt sienna. That's the only place that's like the only place in the whole picture that has that color. And because it's so close to the opposite of green, your eye notices it. And I don't want to pull my eye right to that spot. So, so right now, everybody see where my cursor, I don't want my eye to go to this. So even doing this, say now my eye's not going to go there. So you can even just make it darker, and not necessarily worry that anybody's going to see it. But watch what happens when I take that off. And that's when I take that off, immediately your eye goes to that spot. And this is the kind of things. The reason why I'm telling you all this stuff is when it comes to putting your work in shows, which is another whole thing as far as like getting into exhibitions and so forth. What artists are looking, for the most part, they're being judged by artists. And obviously what artists are looking for are not what gallery owners are looking for. So that's the first thing. But then the other thing is they're basing it on all these different rules that they all heard about or know about or whatever. And they're also just seeing where your eye goes. And so, so anyway, that has a lot to do with whether you get in or not to a picture. Okay, here's.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is another nice picture. This has a lot of potential too. And this one here, same thing. I could put some geese or something down here. I could put, if I really wanted to stop my eye or whatever, stop your eye. I could have somebody fishing, a little boy sitting and fishing with a fishing pole going out over the water. So I could do something like that. But what I did with this one, so here's the problem with this one that I see, is a couple things that I decided to change right off the bat. First thing is this tree here goes, if I see this tree and follow this up, it goes right out of the corner. So in every picture, obviously your corners are something you got to watch for, because in fact, there's somebody by the name of Ian Roberts. Ian Roberts he's Canadian, and but he no longer lives in Canada. I think he lives out in California or something. But anyway, he was somebody who wrote a book years and years ago on composition. And I got that book years ago, and it actually had a DVD with it. And I've been enthralled with him as far as he's a really good speaker. And he now does he's actually on YouTube, and people follow him. But the point is one of the things in his way back when in his book, he was talking about, he didn't have on the composition, he had these arrows, and he talked about how these arrows, and I lent this book out to somebody and lost it. I don't have it any longer, but I still remember these arrows that he would have in his picture, and he would talk about how you've got to remember your corners act as arrowheads pointing out. And so that's why, I don't know whether he mentioned it, but that's why if you look at a lot of paintings, older paintings, they'll have like curves, something to keep your eye into the picture so that you're not going to be going going out of the picture. So that's why you have to always watch things like that. And so what I did with this picture is I did this. I moved that tree down. So now the tree's still going out of the picture. I kind of put some stuff in here to maybe make it a little bit fuller, so it looks like there's some stuff in there. I lightened up the background back here, and I lightened up back in here a little bit. And the other thing that was really bothersome, I'll go back to the other one, is notice how the shadows act as stops. Now, there's no doubt those shadows are too dark, but I even decided to get rid of them altogether and kind of get, so I kind of eliminated some of them so that there's, so your eye goes down. So what you do now is you slowly go down this path or whatever. And this could be a case where you got to have a couple people, you could have a couple people walking down here if you wanted. You could have, like I say, little ducks in the water you could do. You could do any number of things. Like I say, this is another one of those pictures that has endless possibilities. So.
Thank you so much. I think that you're telling us that wonderful reminder that we're free.
Yeah, you're free. Yeah, you're absolutely. I mean, because like I say, it's the worst that can happen is you'll learn one way or the other. I'll just tell you this: you'll learn one way or the other. I mean, you'll learn something from it. There's no doubt. All right, this I love this picture. I mean, it's like when some of these, in fact, a lot of these pictures people have sent me, I almost feel like I wish I knew where that place was. In fact, some pictures in the past people have sent me, and I make it a point of contacting them and say, would you mind sharing where that is? Is that, then they'll tell me it's in Ohio or, it's in Wisconsin or something like that. And so chances of me.
That picture is about 2 miles from where I'm sitting.
Okay. Well, you might want to, so
If you want to, Robert Snyderbeck, if you want to contact me, I'll tell you where it is. And there's a lot of farm scenes right where I live.
Well, let's do this. Since I don't have your email, you probably have mine. You email me, and that would be great.
I will try and send you, directions on how to find out.
Oh, great. Anyway, I think it's a great place. Okay. There again, this picture here, I love doing I love doing street farm scenes. The thing I especially like is this barn. It kind of has it's missing some of the slats, so it becomes kind of interesting to look at, right? You could spend. You could pick all kinds of areas of this to do, and it could be a great picture. So anyway, the thing about this one that I first noticed, and I was thinking about how to, like, if I was actually standing there, I might try to stand close enough to the fence that I don't put the fence in, because when you're doing that, when you're doing a fence like this, it acts as a block, and you have to jump over it. That's why in so many of these pictures, these paintings, these guys will make the fence look like it's a broken down fence. Now, obviously, in a farm, if you have farm animals, you don't want to do that. So then you got to think of another way of putting the fence in so it's not like a broken down fence. But anyway, so here's what I did. I went and I did this. First one I did, I actually took that part of the fence out. I said, okay, well, what would happen if it just looked like it didn't have, as if the guy doesn't have any animals there, and the fence is out. And so, but I did like this fence on the right, so I kind of left that. And one of the things I guess I did is I blurred the tree a little bit here so that the shadows weren't as dark. I lightened up the trees in the distance. I kind of put a little bit of light in here. So now to me, it's kind of about the barn. And so, like I say, it opens up. But that's the problem with having too much time. This morning I had time to kind of look through the slideshow, and I did like this so much, I went ahead and played around with this again. And I did this. And so what I did is I cropped it down. I left the fence, and because I thought, well, whoever did it probably really likes that fence. And now there's still the fence there. But the thing about this, if you look over here on the right, let me use the pointer over here. So if you look over here, the left. I say right, I'm going over this way. You look over here on the left, you're going to see that the values of that fence are probably very, like right in here especially, the value of the fence is very similar to the value of the grass. So that's where I could slip my eye from the grass right into the fence. And so right now my eye stops at this one, but it slips in through here on the left. So that's how it gets into the picture. So it doesn't come in from over here. That actually is a hard stop. But over here, it's light enough, and I could even have, if I was painting this, or pastel, I keep on saying painting, but you all know when I say painting, I mean pastel. But when I do a pastel of this, I could have actually even make sure that it's light enough to where everybody kind of knows what's going on, but yet it slips, my eye slips through. I went ahead and I lightened up back here. I put some clouds in. I mean, I had another version. I had another version where I didn't crop it down, and I actually had the whole sky filled with clouds. And this was the remnants of the lower clouds, which you don't really see much of. But I would probably have a couple clouds in there to so that sky doesn't become just this big blue shape. And then, like I said, I lightened up over here so that on the right, so that feels like it goes back in. But now it's clearly about it's clear this little right now. This is so engaging as far as a shape that you could that there's no doubt that's where you're going to look, you know. So anyway, I think that really works well. There are very few pictures I look at that I think I could. I mean, I think that I might want to do a painting from that picture. And even though I don't know this spot, didn't take this picture, this could be one of them. All right, so let's see. Oh, this
Thanks,
one.
David. I was worried about that fence myself.
Oh, you've been worried about that fence? What do you think? Yeah, it's a great.
Yeah,
Great.
I like your idea.
Yeah, great spot. So anyway, so this is another great picture, and this one here is absolutely. I mean, it looks like this is like a professional picture that I've seen on the back of aquariums. You know, you go into the store and you buy a picture that they put on the back of your fish tank, so that it looks like you got this huge fish tank. That's how nice this picture is. So I don't know. I mean, first off, it would be I mean, you could do a pastel of it, but it's like it's one of those cases where this may obviously be best left alone as a photograph. If I was going to, but the beauty of it being something that you would do is you could make it better. See, every time you work from a photograph, my feeling is you're going to make it better than the photograph. And people say, well, how can you make it better than the photograph? Well, all the things I've just talked about and all these other slides are how you make it better than the photograph. And so, so for example, when they took this picture, they couldn't tell that fish move a little bit to the left or move a little bit to the right. So it is what it is. But if I was gonna correct this, I almost thought about correcting it, but then I thought of leaving it and showing you. But so this little fish here on the right, I don't think you need that. If I was gonna do something, I'd probably get rid of that fish there. Over here on the bottom right, where it has that yellow sponge or curl or whatever that is, because remember I talked about the corners being such a careful area you got to watch for. I would be very careful about. I mean, I would probably take that yellow out. I mean, you know, it's like one of those things where I actually don't. If I wanted to have that yellow there as a color note, I would move it into, let's say, this area here or something like this, to where it's well away from the corner of the picture. So it might pull my eye down into that dark spot, but it's not going to pull my eye right down to the corner. This little thing over here on the left, I don't think that adds anything to it, so I would get rid of that. I mean, some of these things I probably could just get rid of with with dark. So if I do this, I do the highlighter and do this. Let's see here. So like, see, you don't need that. You know, you just don't. That little shape doesn't. By taking that out, I haven't ruined the picture at all. So in fact, if anything, I think I've kind of made it stronger because your eye doesn't go to that little spot. I can't really take this one out because I don't have a nice blue. This fish, I could take this out. I could take this out. You see how I got to move this bar here. So I could take this thing out, and now you can see how your eye's not going to go to, you know, to that corner. So, but if I like that color note down there, I felt that it needed that. I felt that this, which I might, this space is awful, is an awful big shape. I want something down there. So I'd either put more of the this brown kind of curl at the bottom, or I would put some of the yellow, or put a fish. See, that's the other thing. Because you're making it up, there's nothing saying that you couldn't take one of these fish that's like this little guy here and move this little guy and put him right down in here. And then now you got your little yellow fish, and now you don't have to worry about how it is. But it's a really wonderful picture. Really, so that it would be a very difficult, in my mind, it'd be a labor of love. I do have students that love these unbelievably detailed type, or things that are challenges. I should put it that way. Doing this area up in any of this stuff up here, you know, it would be a labor of love to do. If you like doing that, then do it. You know, I would never tell anybody not to do it. but it's like that would drive me crazy to try to get the feeling of that. Anyway, here's another wonderful picture. And so some of those ones I was talking about, I almost was going to take this little guy and put him in some of the other pictures, but I didn't do that. But anyway, it was one of these things where you know, he makes the picture, because anytime you have a landscape and you put anything that's man-made or any animal, then that becomes a focal point. So that's why, like, Andrew Wyeth would do these big empty fields, and then he'd put an empty 50-gallon drum in it, because that empty 50-gallon drum became a focal area. Because we're always trying to make, you know, we notice man-made things like crazy. And so, so anyway, so obviously it's about him. I thought about cropping this down. The problem with cropping this down is the one thing I really like about this picture, and it really needs, is it needs these sky holes. So without these sky holes, this picture really would not work well. So, so anyway, so these sky holes really make the picture. And so if I kind of cropped it to where it was down in here, anywhere down here, now there's no breathing room. And so, so anyway, so I kind of like the idea of having, you know, this could have been a picture I was thinking about cropping it to where it's like a vertical, and then having sky holes in, you know, in the middle portion or something like that. But that's the thing, I like a lot of this. I like the water, the white water. So this would be another one of the, I like these colors, the yellows, the yellow, you know, so it could be, let me erase all this stuff, it's confusing. Now you're seeing how my brain thinks. It goes around all these crazy things. But I like this, so it could be the interaction between this guy, this tree that says like this, and maybe I would come down this way. So in other words, because I like those colors, so you know, so those colors against the guy, and then the light. So here's the most color. I talk about the most color in the picture. The most color in the picture is right up in here, and then the most contrast, you know, could be even him. So your eyes kind of, your eye does want to make this connection. Even his fishing rod, fly rod's kind of pointing to that. So there's definitely a connection between him and this. Then it goes up this way. So that's why, I mean, so maybe if I crop, so right now as I'm talking through this, as much as I like those the white water, I might tend to eliminate that, and I might have it to where this was a picture that was like, let's say crop this way, not crop like this. I want to include, and then what I would do, see where it has this little light sky coming through, I would pretend that it goes down lower, and I'd even have some of the sky holes down lower. It might eliminate this tree here, because obviously I can't, you know, it looks, it's a hill, but I might eliminate that tree and then make it more like some sky holes back in there. And then I think that would work. And then there's a design called, there's a composition that's 3-spot. And so the 3 spots would be my eyes going from him to this, going around. Even though this could be 1 spot, but it's 2 different colors. All right, so here's another picture. And this picture here is, this looks like one of these pictures that's down in Georgia or whatever, where they have the Spanish moss, you know, hanging off those trees or whatever. Looks like those live oaks. But anyway, so the thing about this is, there again, you need to have something like what is it all about? What's the story? I mean, what's the purpose of this picture? And if the purpose of the picture is about the kayaks and then going back into space, the thing that hurts it, I think, is the blue paddles. The blue paddles because that's the only color that's like that. And so because it's so different, that becomes really like the star, and it's so close to the edge or whatever that my eye keeps on seeing that. Maybe it goes up this way, but you know, it doesn't. This is not this doesn't work for me as far as those blue paddles there. But I like the like I say, I like a lot of the tree. There's really a wonderful tree. So so that's the other thing. This could, which I didn't do. I might have cropped something like this and had it be a tree study, and that might have worked. You know, I could have done something like that. Take those boats out. So here it is. Here it is. I think the whole picture. And here again, what got to watch this tree. How this tree goes all the way up to the corner here. Could take you. It could lead my eye right up to that. Luckily, some of these other things like this in here kind of stops my eye, slows my eye down. So actually, what I would do is keep that as far as my eye would go, and I would make that lighter. One of the things you always want to do is you want to tuck the. Whenever you have two lines coming together, I could probably show you better on another picture, so I think I will. But anyway, here's the paddles. What I did with that, I took those paddles out, and now it's about the kayaks, and that could work. So now I kind of just, this is a picture. So this is, like I say, remember where you put something in that's man-made. So obviously these kayaks become a focal point. And now it's kind of like these kayaks in nature. And that's about all I changed on this. So I might worry about this the sun being a little bit too bright up here on me. I notice it's now on the screen, the sun beating down on that. So I don't know. I might crop some of this down. I might try to crop that sun out of there, so that you don't see that. So your eye's going to go right to that light. And if I did so all this up here might be gone. And then if I did all that, it's still going to have the same feeling, but now it doesn't have that sunspot up there that's going to pull my eye to that. So I might do something like that. If I did that, I'd have to watch how light this is, because then that might be a little confusing as to why is that such a different color. So I might have to change that, this color over here. But now it's about these kayaks in nature, and it's kind of an interesting, design type thing. And these things, there's a lot of movement in this, and that's what rhythms. So there's a lot of rhythms in this picture. I might get rid of these limbs. Well, I guess I have to have that limb there. So I guess I have to have that. I would. What bothers me about when I say about these limbs, I might have to have this limb here. This one here. Let me use this pointer to make sure everybody sees me. This one here I have to have, because it goes through and goes over this way. But this one up here, if this is part of this limb here, I don't need that. I can get rid of that and make this feel like it goes back in a different direction. The reason why I talk about getting rid of this limb is because the distance, let me erase this. You'll see exactly what I'm seeing. So the distance from here, let me get the pointer. The distance from this point here to this point here to this point here is close enough to being, like this limb is almost close enough to being in the center of those two that it's distracting. But you don't want to, you don't want to have things that are equal. So I would probably get rid of that limb coming out, and I probably would just have more of the green, the moss or something in there to fill in some of that shape. So let's go to the next one. Let's do this. Let's go back here. Oh, okay. So here's another one. Now this picture here, I actually asked the person to send it to me again, because it was the first time they sent it was really small, and this was the second time, and it's better. But it could have been it could have just been like almost a little bit of out of focus, like the one that I did of the horses. So it could be nothing to do with so the focus aspect could be nothing about could have been just the way the picture is. Anyway, it's kind of there again. It's another little great barn or whatever. The thing about the barn, I mean, that's the thing I'd ask, is it about the sky? Okay. The thing about this compositionally that hurts it is, even though I'm not really talking a lot about composition, but that the tree line almost lines right up with the top of the barn. And so in this one here, what I did, you see what I did is I cut a lot of the sky out. I put a warm sky so it looks like a sunset, and the sun's going down. And I put the sun all the way down to the top of the barn. And then I even actually put a little bit of lighter color inside the barn just to make it look like there's something in there. Could be hay in there, could be straw, whatever is in there. And then what I also did on this one is I lightened up this green to almost make a path from the foreground all the way back. And I think I lightened up over here on the left, those trees on the left. I did so also on the right. But I lightened up these trees so that it's it's in layers, so you can almost see these layers going back in space. So now, so it's really kind of in a way, it's about the sky. I mean, I didn't really work a lot on this sky, so you might have to worry about, I mean, I'm just trying to show you the idea. This might be a little bit too light over here as far as the sky, so I might not, I really was thinking of the main lightness of the sky being around the barn. So I'm not saying I would have this light all the way over this way. I might have some blue over here so that, so your eye, I don't want your eye get pulled to that big white on the left. So, okay, so here's another picture. Now, this is an interesting picture, and here again, it's one of those cases where it'd be interesting to know what the person was hoping to get out of this, like what they were hoping to, like why they liked this picture is something to do. This reminds me of another picture that was in a slideshow that I did, or that was sent for me for a slideshow, and the picture, it was a really great, actually it was not a picture, this was artwork. So somebody did artwork, but it was obvious they did it from a photograph, and the problem that I saw, it was really, even though it was wonderfully done, I told them that the problem was that they used a photograph that had a lot of distortion in it. And they were like, so they actually went back and checked the photograph while I was doing the slideshow and said, yep, I was absolutely right. The photograph was distorted. But anyway, because that's the problem. That's the problem with photographs, is that you have to really be careful, or you're going to get a lot of distortion in your images. And there's ways of correcting it. But anyway, so here's what I mean by that. So if I was painting this, I would not, even though the picture's like this, I would definitely not have the distortion that's showing in the photograph, because that's because of the camera. And so what I mean, so first thing I did is I lightened it up because it was just too dark. And so right off the bat, now maybe the sky is too light, but now at least I can see into the shadows a little bit and I can see the people. So let's just say you like this picture and you want to do it. You could do this, because it could be all about the different, you could even put whoever were there as the people that are around that. That could work. I might not have the sky being as white as it is, but it does pull my eye right up to the top. But the one big thing I noticed, the biggest thing is this, and I tried the best I could to kind of come up with figure out where the width is on this side. But I'm assuming that it's somewhere probably where I put it. And you can see by doing that this top of it's not centered between those two. And that's because of the distortion of the camera. And so, anyway, so if I was painting this, I would make sure that I'd figured out where this was on the base of this. I then just made sure that this was centered directly above it, so that it wasn't, because then it's obvious that there's distortion. And the picture that I was talking about that somebody sent me, they had ropes or whatever that were supposed to be hanging perfectly vertically. And the reason why I know that is because they had to wait, they were rope, something like that, ropes, and they were at slight angles. And then ropes don't hang, ropes are perfectly, especially if there's a weight at the bottom, it's definitely going to be vertical. So, all right, here's another picture. This is a really great picture as far as it's unlike what we normally see around here, but it's, you talk about simple shapes. This is everybody looks for like in Carlson's book, talks about having three to four big shapes, and so obviously this is a big shape picture, but it's one of these things where, and to me it's about near to far. So the idea is this boat here becomes near, and then I'm going right down into the distance. So anyway, so what I did with this was I cropped it, made it more of a square, let's say. And I got rid of the grasses that were in front of the boat, kind of put it like, it looked like maybe a reflection of the boat into the water. And now that opened that up some. And now my eye kind of goes, seems to me like it works better. I cropped some of the stuff, let's go back this way. So I cropped some of this tree up here, is kind of getting in the way, it kind of is too much in the foreground. So I thought, okay, if I crop that, then that's gonna, that's not gonna be an issue. And so it felt a little closed in with the way this was. And so I felt like if I did that, now it's gonna have more of a little bit of a sense of openness. And I didn't change anything else. I mean, it's like that's not to say that I couldn't have, you know, changed some of this might be too white and not, you know, as I say, I could go crazy telling you all the little things I see in these things. But I mean, just like right now, I'm looking at it. I could have gotten rid of I wouldn't have put those little hanging things in. But you get the point. That's the whole thing. I was debating. So one of the things I was really debating about putting in, taking out, or whatever was the poll. That poll, I was debating about that. But now, I mean, more and more, I mean, as I was thinking about it, I think that that's a critical thing. And he probably knows this area or whatever. But I think that pole is kind of holding that boat in place. And so I think it's probably stuck in the mud, and it's and that might be the pole that they use to push their. But anyway, I think that that's a key thing now. I mean, so that's why I debated about about putting that in, taking it out, whatever. But I believe that's critical to telling that story of that particular boat. All right, here's a nice picture. So these are we always have. I mean, these are this reminds me of my granddaughter, who actually is now 16. But anyway, these are cute little girls in bed together or whatever. Now, the thing I see with this though is I can see how this could be a painting or pastel, but I want to make it about them. And I mean, really about the interaction between. I mean, like this. That's where I want my eye to go. So anything outside that little circle is a problem to me. I do like the stuffed animal. I should say I do like this stuffed animal. So that stuffed animal works. But the reality is, so anyway, this is what I did. I went ahead and I covered up this. She had a little bit of her stomach, I guess, showing here, or hip showing here. I got rid of that because if I go back to that, whoops, let me get rid of this. You'll see what I mean. It pulls my eye to that. And I don't, it's not enough information to tell everybody what it is, other than that's, part of her, probably her hip, or, anyway, actually, it's over here. Did I cover that one up? Let's see. Yeah, I did. So anyway, I covered both of those up because it doesn't really add to it. And I think that makes it better. And then this other one, I kind of covered that up, but then it was this big white shape. So I kind of tried to put in some squigglies to kind of have the same color as her as the pant, the bottoms that she has on, the pajama bottoms. And now it's about the two of them. Oh, the other thing I did, watch this. Okay, so when I do this, notice how your eye kind of goes to this little spot over here, because it's the same value and color almost as their arms, or even the face or whatever. Well, I don't want my eye to go to that, because that's pulling my eye away from them. So what I did is I lightened that up. So now it's clearly, I stick within that boundary that I've said. The only other thing I thought about, and I was really debating, I did do some to it. Let's go back. So this arm became a little bit of an issue to me. And even this hand, and that could be an issue with the camera, by the way, as to why this hand looks like that versus this hand looking like that. It could be because the person was too close and the hand's too big. So I kind of fixed. So I fixed some of the shirt over here, fixed a little bit of the arm. I left this hand. It probably is a little bit too big, but I mean, I probably would, like, if I was painting it, I probably would not paint it as big as I seen it on the screen, because I think it's the distortion of the camera. So okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's see. Okay, here's another one, a little landscape.
Thank you, David. I just wanted to quickly just say thanks. That was great help.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, you know what? I'm talking. If people, I probably haven't given people enough time to break into me. I mean, to stop me. But because as I do this, I can always go back to some of them. Somebody has something to say, and they, I went, they didn't get a chance to ask the question. I will go back and maybe find the slide.
Well, I actually do have a quick question for that one, if it's okay to ask.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate, because I knew I wanted to cover them up a little bit with some of the blankets would have been a lot of fun, but having that puppy and changing that color, what a difference. That was magnificent. But also, how would you do this in a size? Because it is an intimate piece, and I really do want it about the sisters themselves. And just, that's really what I was thinking of titling it. But what kind of thing would you talk about with size, even trying to translate this into what you would want?
Oh,
Small
okay,
or
okay.
large or?
Okay, well, okay, so this, obviously the two of them, it would be a rectangle shape. So you know, there again, all this stuff down here as far as the blankets, I don't necessarily need that to tell the story. So I might be tempted to crop it. Right, like right where that blanket is, like right, you know, like right. So if you did it, you know, maybe a little bit of the blanket, but like let's say there, then you know, now it's this long rectangle type thing. One of the things I did, by the way, is over here on the left. See these little poles over there? I got rid of them too. They didn't need that. I'd probably lighten up the back, the headboard or whatever. I might make that a different color if it's because, so let's say that headboard is black. I don't know whether it's black or not, but in the picture it looks black. I would have made that probably an oak, you know, like a brownish kind of headboard, because I don't want that to be, I don't want the most contrast. Remember I said in the picture you're going to go where the most contrast is. So I don't want the most contrast between the headboard and the pillows, because that's going to, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna pull my eye up there. I mean, I don't know. I'd play around a lot. I mean, I mean that all works as far as the pillow, but you might even want to crop it. You know, I mean, you could get real intimate and I mean, like, and really crop it. You know what I'm saying? But I think, like in other words, you might not need the whole stuffed animal to tell the story. If you didn't want to worry about that hand, because like I say, that could be a problem area. I might just kind of crop it to where it's like this kind of a shape in here. So I have enough of the stuffed animal that everybody knows that's their stuffed animal, and I don't have to worry about the headboard. And now it's getting smaller and smaller, and it's about them, let's say. So that could work too. So that's why I say you just gotta, you know. Now the only thing about this is the only thing about this that might be, I mean, I probably wouldn't crop it where I just did this, because this shape of her, if I look down in this area here, that doesn't work. So that's where I probably will have to go further. So, and that's why I say, that's where you play around with these things. In other words, because there's that curve of her body, you got to be careful how you, where you crop that. So probably, I know now what I would do. I would take that hand off, and I would have that hand look like it's down below her. So I might just see this arm going down, but then it's kind of like her body is as if it's down on her side instead of on her hip. That's what I might do with that hand, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I think some of the people asked about the size. The size and scale of these pictures is huge. You know, as far as I'm always amazed about when I see a picture. I don't know whether it's 5 inches or 5 feet. And more, it seems like these artists are doing these huge pictures. And there's something about, there's no doubt something monumental about a big picture. So, but the problem is not a lot of people have a lot of wall space for these huge pictures. So, so that's where, you know, doing something small and intimate could be even better. Let's go to
Thank you.
here. Yeah, let's go to this one here, and sky. So there's a lot of activity. See, there's a lot of motion in the water, a lot of motion in the trees. I mean, a lot of textures. But in the sky, it's kind of plain. So there again, that would be one that I might add some clouds to or something. You know, you always want to have variety from left to right and top to bottom, because you've got to remember that the sky is a dome and it's going back in space. So you'd never, if you were standing there, you would definitely see a different color down by the horizon than you would up here. The problem is the camera didn't know how to, you know, we see more color than the camera does. So anyway, so what I did with this is I cropped it down and then put some clouds type thing in. So I got rid of some of the sky and then put some clouds in, and now it's kind of like the birds on the tree and then this bush here. And that's, I didn't do much more than that. I think that works. So I think that's kind of an interesting picture. Could have been cropped more if you had wanted, so I might not need as much of those trees. You know, that's why I say there's all kinds of solutions. I was debating about cropping some of the, like taking that limb out. You know, that's one of those things where probably don't need that limb in there. Okay. This is a real nice picture as well. this picture here, now that I'm looking at it now, it's really funny. I'm looking at these now, not for the first time, obviously, but with a fresh eye, let's say. And now I'm wondering. Now I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if I had moved this over here, moved that in some. That might have worked. I mean, it was like, so it's not so close to the edge. Extended that further into the picture. That would have worked too. The reason why I'm looking at it now and thinking about that is because there's no doubt that this shape over here balances out all this over this way on the right. And so, but I might want it, let's see if I can do, let's just see. If I put this in like this, I'm going to do this color. So it's the wrong color, but it still might be the closest. So I'm just saying, if let's say that shape had extended a little further, then it might not. So reason why I might have extended that shape is I might have extended that shape so that I could lighten it up over here, so it's not right off at the corner. So I could kind of pull my eye into the picture some, instead of, so that I might have done that. I might have moved that in. But here again, this is a picture that really goes back. Really your eye really goes right down this river, and then goes up to the sky. So I like that a lot. There again, this is another one. Oh, I didn't do it, but I was thinking of this one being. This would be a great picture to have, like let me get rid of this. To have like geese in it. This is the time of year we have all the geese flying by, and so I could easily see that you could have, your flocks of geese that are flying by this picture. That's not a geese, a goose. Anyway, the flocks of geese going by or something like that into the picture, and so I could definitely see how you could do something like that, and that would make that more active up there. It also might help with this area over here. That's the other thing. I could have some random trees. So instead of it being full, there could be a couple of little lone trees in here. So I still have some sky holes, and then that would close that up some. So that's what I see with that. But it's a nice, really nice picture. Here's another nice one. This is, like I say, a lot of these.
If I can interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah.
That farm shot is at the intersection of Long Necker and Piney Grove. It's maybe 10 minutes from the end of 795 in Baltimore County. It's in an area at this time of the year when the leaves change. It's almost like a trip to New England. There's dozens of places with rolling countryside, white churches. It's the whole area west of Route 30 and east of Interstate 83 up to the Pennsylvania line. If you like that type of scenery,
yeah,
it's everywhere. It's free, and we don't shoot strangers in here.
All right. Well, so look, I'll make
Talking about this picture that's on the screen right now.
the one.
A different picture.
Which one? Which picture are you talking about? This. Which one? This one. This one.
I was talking about the one of the barn.
Oh, the barn. The barn.
The barn shot.
Oh, the barn. We're way back to the barn. Okay.
I couldn't remember one of the street names. I had to look it up on a map.
Okay. All right. So, I'll tell you what. I'll just say this. I'll make a blanket statement that if people know. So first off, I guess I ought to say this. I also know that some people like their favorite spot. And I've actually painted with some people who will say, look, I'm going to take you to my favorite spot, but you can't show anybody this spot. You can't take a class to this spot. And so I do know people have favorite spots. So I don't want to tread on anybody's feet for going to their favorite spot. But on the other hand, if people have spots that they think that they might be great places, you all have my email. I'll tell you what, you send me a address, so to speak. In one of the slideshows, I'll just say this, I got time to do this real quick. One of my slideshows, like I say, somebody sent me or saw this picture that was up in Pennsylvania. And I didn't even know it was Pennsylvania at the time, but it was a beautiful stream. And I said, I'd love to know where this spot is. And then they just said, oh, it's up somewhere in Pennsylvania, and they kind of told me approximately where it was. I drove up all the way up to Pennsylvania with my wife trying to find that stream, went to a fishing place, showed him the picture and said, did anybody know where this place is? Nobody knew. Anyway, I finally did get the actual location. They found the location for me, the person that had the picture. And I've actually been there a couple times myself now. The only problem is it's a 2-hour drive each way. So anyway, let's go to this one. This is a really nice picture, but I think it's about the, there's some people I know that just do boats, and so it could be about the boats, but I think it's about the lighthouse. So I cropped it and made it about like that. So now what did I do on this, if anything? About the only thing I did on this was I took off the radar unit, because I don't think that radar, like if I was actually going to paint this, I would take off the radar unit that was on the, there's a little radar unit on the top. I took that off, and I think that's the only thing, I decided I don't need to really do anything else. But that's what I did on this. And I think
So if you were painting it, would you paint all those posts?
oh no. Oh no. I mean, oh yeah. Oh no.
So which ones would you take out?
Okay, so I would take out I would this one here I'd take out. Okay, doesn't need that one.
Right.
Okay? Because reason why I say that is because there's posts behind it that are almost the same value, and then it's almost goes right into this boat here. So it kind of just leads right. See, it kind of leads right into this guy here. So I don't need that at all, right? So I would definitely take out that one. And then over here, would I take out? Let's see. I would probably take out. I don't think I need this little guy back here. I don't think I need him. And I don't know. Let's see. So what you don't want is you don't want to have. You really don't want to have these even posts. So if I took this one out, then I got a big space, and then I have maybe not so big. If I left this guy in, then I have a big space, a little space, a little space. So I might take this guy out, because I said I was going. I take this guy out, then I have a space between this. I'd probably take those two out. So you don't need all of them, and so you don't need those for people to know what it's all about. You know, just like over here on the right, I don't need both of those posts. You know, I could leave the post with the there's got a pole on it and a bird on the top. I really don't even need that one, to be honest with you. See, that's the thing. You only need that stuff if you're trying to be truthful to the scene. And there's some people that want to be truthful to the scene, and it's like, I can't take that out because that's there. Well, that might be for the person that knows the scene and absolutely wants that in there. But the average person looking at it that might not know that spot, they're not going to know whether there's one missing or not. So the other thing I would do, which I haven't really talked about, is I definitely don't want to make them really, because they do. A lot of times they're the same height. I would maybe make one, or if I did put them all in, or I still wouldn't put them all in, but I would still maybe make sure like they are kind of going in perspective, but I might make sure that they're not all the same height either. So the more variety, that's one of I think the next meeting they're going to be doing a whole thing on composition, and which is what was part of the, anyway, I'm not going to step on, I don't want to go into.
Okay. So the post that's at the end, that is at the end of the second boat, at the, I don't know whether it's the floor or what, to the right of the second boat, it seems to be like kissing it.
Yeah, get rid of it. Yeah,
Like, not that one, this one, the one to the right of the second boat. Would you move that? Because you can't see the end of the boat.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't need the end of the, I mean, no.
So to the right. To the right.
To
the right.
This one.
That
Here.
one. Yes.
That one's important.
Well, it's important. The post
That
is
was important. Okay, let
Can
me
you
talk
move
about
it?
Let me
Can you move it?
No, well, you could move the post. Well, you could move the post. Yeah, you could.
So it doesn't interfere with the end of the boat?
Right. Well, so I would be tempted to move. So part of me says I wouldn't move the post. I'd move the boat. I would slide the bow, so the little bow of the boat, instead of the bow being hidden, I might have the bow so that the bow of the boat is coming out this way. You don't need much, and then
Okay, yeah,
then
okay,
people know that that's the end of the boat. You know,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And so that's kind of all you got to do if people if you really, or you do this. Watch this. So look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to. Oh boy, I tell you, it's getting really dark here where I am. Looks like a storm's coming or something. All right, so yeah, I could do this. So I could cut the whole bow of the boat off, and now the boat's. So now the boat's a little bit shorter, and now the boat's
Right, yeah.
away, now it's away from the thing, and no one's going to know I cut off, you know, a little bit of the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, feels better.
See,
Thank
all
you.
these, that's why I was saying all these things that I'm saying. There's a million different solutions. It's not like there's just one solution and that's the one. It's like and that's why I say each one of us look at it and we'll have a whole different set of solutions. Now it's really interesting because, in fact, I guess you're looking at the slideshow, but if anybody had my little picture on the screen, they see how dark my room's getting. So right now, because my room's so dark, this white over here is really glowing on the screen, on my computer screen. I love this picture, by the way, and I think this is I wouldn't paint this picture. I would leave it as a picture. But the only thing I'm seeing now is, because that is so white, I guess I didn't notice it before. I don't necessarily, I think I would probably, let's do this. I think that what I would probably do, the easiest thing to do is this, is to take this, and I would take this, and I would have this all be blue. So that way I don't have that little sliver of white. And so I would do, if I was going to paint this, I would do, make that blue. No one's going to know I did that. I could leave that down below light. I just don't want this to be the lightest light. So I would kind of tone this white down so that this white was, you know what I'm saying, that this wasn't as, just make sure that this wasn't solid white. So I don't want that to be the, I mean, I could have it be relatively light to the left, but I don't want over here to be the lightest, to be that white right at the edge. So, but I think it's a great picture, and really interesting design, and you know, it works. It's, to me, it might work better as a photograph, like I say, than a picture.
I was planning to paint that white curtain in the background much darker. I mean, take it out and put just black.
Oh, okay. Let me put it in. I'll show you what it looks like. So, so you're talking about doing this. Okay, highlight. So we'll show. So you can see. Okay, so let's do this. So this, we'll see whether it helps. It might help to have a little bit of light back there, and not maybe that if you didn't want it there somewhere to pull your eye, so it feels like there's it keeps on going back in space. I don't want to get too close to her. Let's just do that. So that's what it would look like. That could work. That could work. I worry a little bit about this too, right here. I don't want to get too much into the detail there, so I would make sure I wouldn't do it black, but I'm just saying I wouldn't get hung up in the shape there because I don't really need that. But yeah, that's probably a good idea. Whoops, that's probably a good idea, getting rid of that. So that I think that works, and I think that's a beautiful picture. So I could see doing that. I might take some of the so this blue, so that this blue kind of feels like it continues. I might take some of this blue. Let's say this is almost the same. Look, the same value over here. I might take some of that, not maybe as dark as I just did, but I might take some of that and have that over this side, so that it feels like there's a continuity. You don't need to know. Yeah, that's what I might do. Right now, the light's hitting or whatever, and it looks like that step is getting this over here. Let me use the pointer. Looks like over here is getting the light from the sky or whatever is hitting this. I might knock that down to where it's a lower value, almost like down here somewhere, right over here, so that it doesn't pull my eye. In fact, let's just do that. Watch this. So this is just going to show you what it would look like, especially since you're thinking about doing this. So I'm just going to knock this down, and you'll see how. Let's see. Okay, so I just want to knock this all down. I might leave a little bit, so we want a little bit in there. Let's just do this. Okay, this. So I just want to make that a smaller shape, this. See, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to, okay, let's just do that, see, that might, whoops. I mean, I might need a little bit of there, but see, now that at least doesn't compete with her. So, and so that's where, so maybe some subtle values in there would work, but I would definitely not have it be light. I'd have it probably be like maybe what's over on this side over here. I probably should have done something with that picture, but I liked it so well that I didn't.
Would you know, it was shot with a extreme wide angle lens. I was trying to shoot it surreptitiously so that people sometimes object to the picture being taken. So I just basically shot it waist level. So there was a lot of lens distortion. So in correcting that, the body was kind of elongated. Would you, do you think that is distracting?
No, I kind of like it because she could be as tall as she, right. So that's fine. See, it gives her, you know, that reminds me of like a lot of the artists, you know, a lot of the artists in the back. I think they figured they had different eye issues, but you know, you can distort your figure and it still works fine. So I don't think the average person is going to look at that and say that figure doesn't fit there. You know what I'm saying? When I looked at it, put it this way, when I first looked at it, I didn't immediately look at it and say, oh, she's distorted. And so as long as she doesn't feel distorted, I mean, in my mind, it would work. So I could see her being under there and it would work. So yeah, I think it would work. I mean, you can get might be other people that have other other feeling about that, but it doesn't feel distorted to me. Does it feel distorted to anybody else or no? Anybody? No?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, because I know there's several people here that do figures and all that, so they would know. If it doesn't feel distorted, then it's fine. You know, it's usually if it feels distorted, it's pretty. And the reason why is the area that would be distorted is not where you're really looking, because there again, it's going to be maybe more about her. You know, you're going to be careful. You know, everything around the perimeter, like even not me. I like that little. That's why I say it might be better as a photograph, because I wouldn't want to get too detailed with that doorway there because it's so close to the edge. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so some of this stuff, that's why I say, you know, I mean, you might even crop it down to be more about it, her. Anyway, no, it works fine, just like it is. Here's another one. This one here, oh, did I do anything to this? This, no, I did not do anything to this. This looks like maybe somebody had already done something, maybe with one of the programs or whatever. But I don't think I did anything actually. So I go to the next one. I don't think I was thinking about going into this and changing something, lightening up or whatever this background, this turquoisey color, so it doesn't compete with this, but it does make a big shape. So in some ways this could be really interesting. It could kind of work. I should have taken this building out. So I didn't think of, I'd say I didn't modify, and initially I tried to modify one picture from everybody, and then it looked like I had time to do more, so I did more. I would probably take that high rise out.
I was planning to.
Okay, so yeah, it doesn't need that high rise. It doesn't need this, you know, you could probably get rid of some of these, if it's all about this one boat, which I love, you probably could crop it off to where you don't even have all these boats on the right. But it works like that. I don't know, it actually works. I'm thinking, I guess when I look at it, and that's why I say I'd try it, I would maybe think about cropping this building off over here, because this building is awful similar to the one on the right, and I think if I crop that, like from that point on, it's still going to tell the same story. So I love what's going on over here about going back in space. See, this all connects. See, I'm always looking for pictures that are shapes that connect. And so this has a nice, that's why I didn't touch it, because this has a really nice connection of the darks. Dark back here goes into this boat, which goes into this, which goes into the motor, which goes down. All these connections make a nice big, this dark here connects to that boat. This boat here goes to that boat. So all these connections make these big shapes. Like I say, the only, I'm not sure what this was back here. Was this this turquoisey color? Whether
That's a hill. That's a
Okay,
mountain.
Okay.
That's a mountain.
I might make that lighter. I might just make that lighter because, and maybe not make it as high. I might, instead of it coming, see how it almost comes right into the top of the boat? I might take that and I might have that hill, because no one's going to know that you cut the hill down a little bit. I might take that hill and have that hill come down to maybe about, I might not need those buildings there. I might have the hill come down to, to something like this. You know what I'm
How about the high-rise buildings?
If you need them, well, first off, you might have to do something with the sky, because right now the sky, I didn't talk about the sky, but remember clouds or something.
Right.
But if you wanted to be specific to the area, then maybe having those two high rises are going to, first off, it breaks up that, if you're going to have the hill, it breaks up the hill shape. But so it might be important to have those, right? But here again, that's why I cropped it off, let's say here, because here again, this building here is about the same height as the hill up there. It certainly doesn't help it. So, so that's totally up to you. That's the thing. If you didn't want it to be specific, you wanted it to look like it wasn't, like it was done 30 years ago or whatever before they put high rises, then I would take out a lot of that stuff and have it just be a hill back here, and just have it, this all could be a hill back here, and you don't have those high rises. And that might, that could work. Say it all.
Nobody from Hong Kong is going to see this, so I can do
okay.
what I want.
Okay, well, that's why you try it. I mean, like I say, try different ways and see what you think. But it's, I mean, this could be just a really strong picture, just doing here and just doing, so you might, like I say, you might crop it really tight, and I'd have this boat in. But I mean, anyway, crop it really tight to where you have none of that, all this stuff's gone, and it would still work. Because really, this is the stars, that boat. This boat here, and then this going back to the left. That all works really well. So here's another picture, and this one is really interesting because it's the divided interest. And what I mean by, it's pretty obvious, it's a divided interest, right? Because you could be part of the group looking to the left, or you could be part of the group to the right. And so that's where you got to be clear as the viewer, which one were you excited about doing? Were you excited about the group that's over there to the left looking with the tour guide, or were you curious about the people that were eating something and the guys, this guy looks like he's standing or whatever. I'm not sure whether he actually works at the restaurant or not. But anyway, but what I ended up doing is this, I cropped it. And I think I made, I think I could be a really interesting composition. And what I did is I lightened up, I'll go back 1 second. I lightened up all these darks back in here so that those darks weren't as dark. And then what I want you to notice before I go back is notice how light this building is. When I cropped it, that building was really light, and I didn't want that, so this would have been a really light shape. So I don't want that building to stand out. I want it to be all about what's in here. So I darkened that building. And so now it's kind of about this, this guy looking, and this is one of those pictures where there's all kinds of things you could do, right? If you could find a picture of somebody that, a waiter, like a lot of that's and have a waiter here. You could have a waiter that's standing, you could put another person at a table and have somebody else where you have their back to you, whatever, and the waiter's there working with them. So there's a lot of possibilities with something like this. And it's, I think, it's, the other thing I didn't do, but I thought about maybe was lightening up that red, but it works. I think all this works. It's kind of like this guy over here. I like the way that the chairs all intermingle, and they kind of slows down my eye. So what happens is, because a lot of the pictures I've done so far, you've seen, you kind of go from the foreground to the middle ground real fast. But this one, these chairs really slow down how fast I go back into the picture. Now there's like a stroller maybe there. I mean, some of this stuff I wouldn't put in, right? I didn't do like I say, I did not do everything to these pictures. But like if that's a stroller there with somebody, or a wheelchair maybe, I'm not sure, that you don't need that, right? So there's certain things you don't need to tell this, you know, I wouldn't, that's what I'm saying. Use the artist, have to decide where you want people to look. And just like these 3 poles, you know, I would not want to have all 3 of those be white and be the same from top to bottom. So I would change stuff like that. So I'm just trying to tell you, show you things, and hopefully at least what you've seen today is how making changes, how making a few changes can radically change the picture. You don't have
I did do a similar crop and made a painting of it. But in the moment when I was taking the pictures, what really interested me was the architecture and the bright colors. If you go,
yeah, back to this, yeah.
and I haven't figured out a successful way to paint that because it's way too busy.
Okay, well, okay, so if you were doing the buildings, then I'd want to take the people out, right? I mean, because you don't want to have, the minute you have those people and they're looking this way and looking this way, I would probably take the building, I would take the people out on the left, and I'd have this building as it comes down to the street. And then what I would probably do is, instead of these people being all the way to the far right of the picture, I would probably have people that are over on the on this table that's in the front. And I might, like I say, and that's a good question as to whether you might. I mean, I guess you need the awning, but that's. But anyway, then I would see. You can make it to where, that's the thing about us being artists, right? Wherever you put your emphasis, that's where people are going to look. So you could make your emphasis on these windows and on the, you know, on that front of the buildings, and make that what people are going to go to, and all this other stuff is going to be in your periphery, and you're not going to have any of it. I probably would not put this on. Obviously, that thing that ties. That's one of those things that looks like it ties the building together, or a sign or something. I would eliminate that. I might even eliminate this building back here. So it's just, now here's where the distortion comes in. So hopefully you see that. So
it's very obvious to me.
yeah, it's very obvious, right? Everybody can see how this angle here is the most, is really at an angle, and then you know, it's progressively gets better. That's why I cropped it over on the right, because it's less distortion on the right than it is on the left here. So, but that's because of the you know, so if you painted those buildings, you want those buildings, everything to be sort of straight and level. So, so anyway, so that's what so it'd be a good challenge, right? I mean, it's, it can be done, and I think maybe now after some of the things I talked about, you might see at least has some possibilities to do it.
That's been very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so here is another really interesting picture, and we talked about. I just did several paintings of sunflowers. So you talk about sunflowers; these are sunflowers galore. But anyway, the thing I see immediately when I see this picture is I see the same green. I mean, I see the similar green in the foreground as I see in the background, and because it's similar. The similar green, it doesn't help the picture to me, in my mind. So what I did with this, but I do love the fact, before I even switch, I do love the fact that the sunflowers are going in perspective as far as smaller. So it's a really good example to show people how those sunflowers way back here in the distance are the same size, but they're really, so way back here are look one way, and then the ones in the middle ground look a different way, and then now you start seeing these with the color. So it really is a good example of that. Anyway, what I did is this. I cropped it. And I cropped it, and I kind of did some things in the foreground to kind of get rid of some of the yellows or whatever. But anyway, this is, there's a type of painting that's called equalization. And I don't know, you maybe all be familiar with that or not, but a painting that's based on equalization, there's no focal point. Everything is kind of equal. And this could work as a painting on equalization. And so I kind of did it as a rectangle, I mean as a square. And so now the whole thing is interesting to look at, but it still has that feeling of progression as far as you know, the size, as far as the ovals, so the ovals still feel like it's foreground, middle ground. So there's clearly, these up front clearly feel like this is the foreground, and then these back in here clearly feel like this is the middle ground, and then all back here clearly is the background. And so let's see what I did. I cropped, if I go back to the one before, I cropped, like there was one down the bottom that was, I got rid of. So there was maybe one down at the very bottom. I spent a little bit of time, you would think I just put a square on it, but I actually moved that square around so that with what I ended up with, I felt that it almost has this rhythm of this to this, maybe that, there's a kind of this flow of these things going back or whatever. This is a nice line of this guy here goes to this. So anyway, it works for me from that type of painting, equalization. All right,
Thank you, David.
Yeah, this was a challenging picture to do. So I did all the easy. Let's just let you know, I did the easy pictures first, and then I I thought, okay, I still got time, and so because I was always worried about how many pictures I was going to get, right? So, but then some of these are really interesting pictures and kind of complicated to figure out, like, what would I do to this? And because I didn't take them and I don't have a real strong sense of like, oh, I want to paint this picture. So this was one of those ones where I didn't have a really strong sense of like, what is it all about? I mean, it's really interesting as far as the horizontal and the vertical shapes and the fact that it's light and dark. But I thought, okay, well, what would I do to make this into a really interesting painting? And so what I ended up coming up with is this. I cropped it. And I cropped it so that this building comes out like this, which leads me in. And so now, I think I talked a second ago, or a little bit earlier, I mentioned something about 3-spot. So there's composition that's based on your eye kind of bounces to 3 spots in the picture. So I didn't change the colors of any of this. I cropped it, and I did darken some. I darkened this wall over here on the left. Watch this. Up here when I cropped this all up in the upper left is real light. And so I ended up with this really light little building up there, like over here. So I actually just extended this building. So it doesn't look like, so I just copied the color of that building and just extended it. If not, it would have had a little sliver of light or whatever in there, in between there. But anyway, I did that. But anyway, this could be 3-spot, meaning you pick 3 of these bushes. My eye kind of comes into, it could be, let's say this one here. Let me use the laser pointer. So let me get rid of the eraser, and let's use the laser pointer to see it. So it could be this one, and this one be the 3 spots, and I'd make sure that the colors of those were different enough between them that my eye went to those. It could be I might not do this one down here. It may be this one, and this one. So that my eye, that's the triangle that I'm making, and that's going to encompass a lot. So actually, as I think about it, those probably would be the 3 that I would pick. This one here, so I'd concentrate on this area of the picture, concentrate this area and this one. And that's the way we see things. So this idea, this 3-spot, when we look at things, our eye darts between things. So not like a photograph that just takes it all in at once. And so our eye looks at the things that that capture our attention. And so our eye could look at, so if you're doing this, you could get kind of in here, and this could be a little bit more detail here than let's say this one here. But then I would be able to go up and maybe have this one be a little bit more focused or whatever with what I was going to do. So this is kind of interesting. And then that way, wherever those 3 spots are, that's where your eye's going to bounce between them. And if one was a different color, say if I made one of them, let's just see if I did this. Let's just write red. So there's no doubt, right? There's no doubt that if I did this, because this one's red, that's where your eye's going to go, right? But I could very easily say, I don't really want your eye to go there. I want your eye to go down to this guy over here. And so if I do this down here red, now my eye's going to go down there. So because I've introduced a different color, then wherever that different color is, that guy's going to become your eye's going to go immediately to that. So, and then I think I did. Let's see. I did. You can't really tell, it's so subtle, but look at the sky in this one. The sky in this one was awful darn light. I went ahead and I added just a touch of blue, real light. And so that I did that because that little bit of blue makes the whites that are in this building kind of stand out more. So so anyway, that had to be done. And like I say, I think over here, there's no doubt over here, some of the like this little pillar that looks fine. Actually, it was really in the picture over here much whiter. So when I much whiter. So I made some subtle, so, and those are the kind of things that as you're working on your pastel, you're just going to know where your eye moves, and you're going to, I got to you all know this. You need to know, okay, I got to darken this area a little bit, got to lighten this area a little bit. This area is pulling my eye a little bit too much. I got to do something. I didn't do anything to this picture. This is another one. Like I say, this was another.
Excuse me. Can we go back to the buildings here?
Yeah.
To my eye, that big dark gray shape at the top is very distracting. And
Okay.
that's not bothering you?
Okay.
I'd be inclined to just make that sky.
Yeah. Okay. So look. Okay. Remember I said, I would probably, if I had done more, I would have probably lightened that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't that wasn't as dark as it was. I want inside these areas where, like I said, there's 3 spots. That's where I kind of have I would lighten it some, and I definitely would not have the same color from left to right, because it's too long of shape to be all the same. Meaning, so yeah, there's definitely things that I would have done differently. It's just a matter of time with these. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. That's very helpful.
Yeah. So I'd want to keep my darkest darks wherever I want to be looking. Let's say. So
yeah.
They actually probably, which in the way they are, is kind of down here, but that against the sky. Like I said, I want to probably lighten that because some of the sky is going to reflect into that anyway, and lighter shade. This is another one that's kind of interesting. It's really interesting picture, but that's another complicated. That would be that. In some ways, this to me makes a better photograph than me trying to tell what the story about this is. So if I did do a pastel of this, it would have to be kind of a labor of love, and I would I'd want to decide what it. So one of the things you have to watch. I'll just say this. One of the things I just see right now, I did not do anything to this, by the way. So so if I do something now, you'll kind of see just by looking at it. So right now, these trees here, they kind of bother me because they look like they're coming out of the back of the boat. So I would move them so that they come to the left or right or whatever. These trees here kind of bother me because they look like they're growing right out of the boat. So I don't know, I don't know. I might not need that. I might kind of take that tree out or whatever and make it look like it's in the distance. So like even this one here, this guy here looks like it's a tree that's growing out of the bow of the boat. So if I take those out, then I could leave the other trees in. Now, if I left it there, I'd have to just make the tree darker. But that's another. Let's see. Let me see a good picture. Okay, next one's a good picture to do it. So anyway, that's what I have to say. I do like this. There's really interesting things about this. I like the clothesline and the reflections. I even like over here this stuff. It's real. I like the textures of the palm trees. But that's you have to love doing all that. You have to love the reflections. You have to, to do it. So if you like doing that, the other thing I would tell you is make sure that the value and the color of these of the grasses. I call it grasses. It's not. It's probably some. Anyway, whatever that growth is, make sure that the color of the ones that are close look different than the ones that are in the middle, look different than the ones that are back here. Because if they're all the same color and value, they're going to look like they're all flat instead of going back in space. And so the only time you could do it that way is if you're thinking of, like I say, this equalization type thing. So this could be a picture that's that equalization where there's your eye just moves around the whole thing, and it just so that could work that way too. If you want, so it's not about near and far. Some paintings are about. That's why I say you have to decide right in the beginning what your intent is. Is it about near and far? Is it about, you know, light and dark? Is it about warm and cool? Whatever it is, you have to kind of know that. And then that's going to put you on a different path. Okay, so anybody have any questions on this? No.
Thank you, David.
Okay. So, all right. So let's go to this, and this is going to lead into another. So that was literally before. This was literally the last slide that I have. So, so it's actually looks like it's a little bit after 3, but I think we have an hour left, right? So, so anyway, so I am prepared to do something else, or talk about something else. And so, so what I'm going to do before I talk about that, I'm going to go to. Let's see if I go back to.
Could I ask you, what tool are you using to draw and have fun with these erasers and highlighters? Is this the whiteboard in Zoom?
Oh no, this is PowerPoint. So are you on a PC or either one? You can use a PowerPoint.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm on a Mac, but this is just really clever and a great way to do this demo. So this has been really helpful. So thank you so much.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, this is PowerPoint, and PowerPoint has it's very limited, but I can change. I have, like I say, I have the laser pointer, and then I have something where I can make a little pen shape like this, and then I have I can make it wider, highlighter. This is a highlighter, and then what else do I have? So I'm kind of limited. Oh, the eraser. Okay, the eraser. And then I just am limited with the colors. I have like black, red, yellow, green, blue, purple. That's about, you know, so those are the colors I have. All right, so look, let me I guess I can show you right up here. So it'll make more sense maybe up here. So so one of the things I want to talk about real fast. I don't know why I say real fast, because I don't really want to do anything fast. But I want to talk about this idea of respecting the line. So if I have a line like this, you all may know this, but there may be people here that don't know this. So if I have a line like this and I have another line like that, or I'll do another one over here. Let's see, that like this here, another one like this. Okay, no one knows which one is important and which one isn't. And artists that drew in line hundreds of years ago, in their line drawings, you know, figure drawings, Leonardo, Michelangelo, all these guys, they knew how to respect the line. And so, so when you're doing it with line, I'm going to show you how you do that. But where I see it most often, recently, let's say, or all the time messed up, is when people, because I live down by the water, and a lot of people are doing sailboats. And so they do the sailboats, and then they have the mast coming down, and then they have the lines going up, you know, to the top of the mast, and all these other lines going up and all, and so they're not respecting the line. And so, so anyway, I'm just going to mention that. And what it is this: if you look at any of the old, like Michelangelo or Leonardo and all those guys, that's a good way to learn this. But if they were doing an arm, so let's say they do an arm. So this is a muscle. This is a muscle on an arm. So what they would do is, so this is your deltoid muscle on your arm, and so under your deltoid muscle, you know, the biceps under, you know. So anyway, what they would do though is that you'd have this muscle come down like this, and there'd be a gap. There'd be a gap between this muscle and this one, because this muscle, so that shows that this muscle is behind this one because of the gap. And they do that all the time in their figure drawings. So it's like if I wanted one thing to look in front of it, you know, just like if I had a line here and I wanted this to look in front of it, I would do that. And now this looks like it's in front of this. And so, so if I did a tree, and that's my tree, limb or tree or whatever, and I wanted to put one behind it, then what I would do, and there's two ways you do it in pastel. You either leave a little gap like this, and so if I leave a little gap, it doesn't have to be much, but just a little bit of a gap, then that puts the one that respects the line. That's what it's called, right? This actually ruined the line there because I touched it. But anyway, that's respecting the line, and that makes this guy the prominent one. So you can either do a little bit of a gap in it, does it, or what you do is you can just put it together in pastel. You can put it solid, and then you just lightly blend that a little bit, so rough it up, so that it's soft edged, and then that'll tuck it behind it. So anyway, that's the two ways that you're respecting the line. And so, that's a really big point to use in your work, is that, it's the same reason. So back to, I'll just say this real fast as far as like with sailboats. So with sailboats, you have the people that are trying to be literal, and they do the mast, and so that when they do their little, let me see when I do it small. So when they do their little sailboat, these guys that are, they're trying to be literal, will have their mast come down, and then that's the only problem with this thing, is that it's hard to draw these straight lines. I can't. But anyway, there's the mast, and then you have the thing coming to the top. It goes down to the bottom here, and then you have maybe the jib would be here going up, and so anyway, they all so all these things would touch. And so if I do that, I'm not respecting, like I say, I'm not respecting anything. I'm not respecting the mast. I'm not respecting any of this stuff. And so you'll notice if you see any marine artist, they will always leave these little gaps so that you know immediately which one's important and which one isn't. And so that's just another little tidbit. My goal was, like I say today, for you to learn at least one thing that you say, okay, maybe I didn't know. And a lot of you are really, really advanced artists, and I know that. But I'm hoping that there may be some brand new people that aren't as knowledgeable that might have been able to get something from today. All right, so look, now I'm going to talk about something totally different. And this is something I came up with several years ago. I realized in all my students, actually I'll talk about, so in my teaching, I realized I have basically two types of students. I have the type of student that absolutely loves detail, and they absolutely love drawing. A lot of them love drawing, but they really love detail. And then I have the student that absolutely hates drawing, hates detail, doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And what I said, okay, well, how can I get those two people to, so I have problems with both of them. See, that's the thing. Neither way is right. And so I said, how can I get the point across to people that you have to have both in your painting? You have to look at it. You have to look at it like the person that just has fun with the colors. And then you also have to look at it like the person that loves the detail. And the reason why I say you have to have both is because you need the detail to hold the people into the painting. So once they get there, they linger and look at your painting. But then you need the other way because all the detail in the world, if you mess up your big shapes, then they're never even going to come across the room and look at your painting. So anyway, this was something I came up with, and so you're going to see it right now. So this is pastel, and I used a wash. I just kind of washed some of the pastel on the paper, and I was trying to show people how I don't even care what you do. I just kind of throw this stuff on, just kind of make, and just get different colors. See, so I have this kind of this purple shape. I have this kind of this purple shape, shape back in the background here. And then I have this kind of this yellowy shape here. I got this stuff here. Now, some of you might right now already look at it and say, oh, I know what that is. Okay. And that's good if you can look at that and say, oh yeah, I know what it is. And that's great. But I'm trying to tell everybody, this is how you have to look at your paintings when you start. If you don't see something like this when you're starting your painting, then you're going to probably run into problems. Now, this is a little bit too loose. When I say, I want to be a little bit more organized than this. But literally, when I do a painting, this is how I look at it first. And then, so what I'm going to do is I'm breaking this down into the two types of people, right? The person that absolutely hates drawing, they absolutely hate anything that has to do with being exact. So I say, look, here, take a piece of paper, have fun, throw stuff on it. So now they throw, and I've done this to where I let them do that, throw any colors down they want, and whatever way that they want to do with it, right? And so, and then I do this. Let me get out of here. So the next stage is the person that loves detail. The person that loves detail, I did this with a Sharpie. This is just a Sharpie, and it's on a piece of glass. And so I photographed it. And so anyway, and what I did also do, you can see on here, is I actually painted some, for this thing here, I actually painted some color on it. So you see a little bit of gray on it. And I didn't have to do this, but for this kind of this demo, for one of my demos, I had done that. But anyway, this part here, this is the part that the person that loves detail, go to town. Draw as many trees as you want, draw as many little rocks as you want, draw every little, if you want to go into this and sit here and draw all these little rocks and shading and all that, this is where you have fun. This is for the person that loves drawing. This is where they're going to have all the fun in the world, putting all this stuff in, all this junk. And I don't mean junk, but I mean all these things that they really love to draw. And this is the stuff that drives all the people that absolutely hate being precise, crazy. Okay? So now what you do is, I broke this up actually so that you see the two stages. You would not draw this detail on this glass like it is. What you do is this. You put the glass on top of your picture and draw on it. And that's what this looks like when I put the glass on the picture. And see, I can even now, so I really should have drawn on this one. See, I can go on this and I can draw and I can say, I want a little rock over here. And maybe I don't want this tree. Maybe I don't want this tree back here. Maybe I want this tree to be a little bit, maybe it goes up. I want this tree to go this way. So, and the nice thing, and actually the nice thing about doing it with the Sharpie is just like right now, since I'm doing it in Photoshop, if I don't like this, I can just there it goes, and I can move it. I probably should have, now that this is actually the first time I've ever shown this to people. I mean, as far as other than my students. And now I've learned that what I probably should have done is I should have started with just, in fact, I should have done it like this. There it is. I should have started like this, and I should have just started drawing my shapes. I should have just started drawing my trees and my shoreline, because that's really what you do. I mean, that's really how it's done. So I draw this goes back this way, then I have a tree that maybe goes up this way and goes over this way, and then I have these rocks that are here, okay? So anyway, and if I don't like this rock here, I can say, I'm just gonna, this is good. No, I don't want to just draw in line, I want to draw with the highlighter. And then you also can tell, I want to do it in black. Tell me what you think of this idea, by the way. I mean, it's like I say, you're my guinea pigs as far as, I guess, seeing this. But it really made the point clear to people who have a hard time seeing the two different stages in their paintings. And so, in other words, like I say, the people that see the detail, they go crazy with it. Let's do the tree up here, tree this way, and now. So anyway, now what I'm doing though, I usually when I do this, I'm looking at something that that I'm going by, so I'm not just right now just randomly putting these shapes, but you can see how, and I want to have something down here, and then what I can do, I can smudge this if it's the Sharpie. That's why the Sharpie actually works well, because I can draw on this, and instead of it just being this solid line like this, so this is the shapes. So when I talk about your picture having like 5 big shapes, I could have a shape that's, like I say, I have a shape like this. This could be my rock shape. This is one shape. My river or stream or whatever is going to be, let's say, in here. This is this. And then I have this hill, a little bit of background, background trees, this little hill back here, and then these trees that are going back in here. And then I have some distant trees that are maybe back in here. And anyway, so you can, but the nice thing about doing this like this is that I can see ahead of time if I don't like something. If I didn't like something, I can erase it, get rid of it, make it shorter, make it smaller. So if I really wanted to, I mean, I tell people you can figure out, but what you can figure out your composition, or I mean, what you're going to put in by doing it like this. But the biggest thing with this is that what you're doing is you are the glue. Everybody thinks, and this is really the important part of this, everybody believes that the glue is the detail, and that I need to put, my painting's not working, so I got to put more little things in. I got to put more detail. It's not working. I got to put more detail. And I'm trying to show you that it's not the detail that makes your painting. That is not the detail. It is the glue that's underneath of this that so it's that paper. I can't draw. It's let me erase it. Let's do it this way. So I'll erase it. It is literally all this stuff is what makes your painting work or not work. And if you don't see those big shapes and you can't put those things in, and it could be more detail. I mean, it could be more better than what I just did there. Because actually, this was just the 3 of them together. I think I actually even here right now, I have some ones that I copied. And so you can see made at different stages. And I did this a number of times. I've done a number of classes. So I have different versions or whatever. But I think it kind of makes my point. And so, the reason why I did the light is because on top of there, the white is because I was trying to show, because right now I did, so I did the color, I did the dark, but then I was saying, look, you have light, if you want to show people where highlights would be, you can paint them in. So I kind of did, that's why you see the white or whatever, because I was trying to show people, like back in here, I was trying to show people a sky up in here in the upper right, and then some of these rocks might have some light on it, some ripples on the water, okay?
David, I've done this experimentation with a light table and
A light table?
a light table and tissue paper.
Okay. So,
And yeah, and markers, and then you get out the white paint and
okay. So like I say, I mostly did this. I don't do this at all for myself. I mean, I don't need to do this. I mean, I guess if I had something really complicated, I might try to. I mean, or I wanted to figure out, I could do it. But the point is, I really wanted to. So really, the biggest point I want to get from this is that a lot of people believe, like I said, that the detail is what is causing their painting not to work. And it really has nothing to do with the detail as much as it has to do with what's behind their detail. And that's usually the problem. And so, anyway, so that's why I did this. Let's see, that's, okay. That was the end of my slideshow. Let's do this. Let's stop the share. So here, back to me. I have a hat on, just to let you know. I have a hat on because I'm facing a window in my studio. And because I'm facing the window, I got a lot of glare if I don't have a hat on. So it's not like I'm trying to be funny by wearing a hat in here. But see, it shades my eyes so I'm not looking into the sun. So I just want everybody to kind of realize why I have the hat on. All right, so we have let's see, a half hour, right? Or what time? Let me ask people. What time? Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Kim.
Yeah, it could be a half an hour. I mean, we're not set in stone with 4 o'clock. So
okay.
If
Good.
people have some questions, this would be a good time to ask, or comments, or if you have more you want to wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, this would be good to ask questions. So let me do this. Maybe let me switch the camera, and I will do this. Show you this. Okay, so this actually, remember that picture that I had? Let me. So I was going to do a little demo of this guy, but I might not have to do that. So yeah, I was being ready. And I could turn this off. Okay. Anyway, this was that little painting. Remember I said I did that little sketch of. So this is actually the sketch besides being in a slideshow. And I actually put this on here. The reason why I had this here is as I was setting up my setup today for the camera, I wanted to. I was kind of positioning things because underneath of that, whoops, I just pulled it off. But underneath of that was a piece of my pastel paper. If I did a demo here. Anyway.
If you think, David, if you think you can do a demo in 30 minutes, please.
Please do a demo in 30 minutes. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
I'll tell you what. Let's do it this way first. Let's do this because it's really more important. I mean, it's more important that I answer. Let's move this over. It's more important that I answer your questions. So let me answer your questions, and then then we'll see what's time. I mean, what about the demo type thing. So let's go. Maybe I'll go back to this. So I just want you to see this setup. All right. So let me go back to this. And so, all right, let me go unmute yourself. I'm going to gallery view so I can see a lot of people there or whatever. go ahead. If people have questions, we'll see how that goes. And then if people don't have questions, we'll go from there. So let's see. Anybody have any questions? Did it make sense what I was doing? Let's ask.
Absolutely made sense. And I don't exactly have a question, but I do have something I'd like to ask you. And believe me, I'm not hard of hearing, so I followed every word that you've said. But the painting that or the photo that you had with the window in the dead center, I didn't find that necessarily wrong. I've been a proponent of the Pythagorean theorem for quite a while now, and that's one of the highlights of that theorem is right there in the dead center where the 4 different armatures meet.
Right.
I just wondered your thoughts on that Pythagorean theorem as far as getting into shows, because I can guarantee you that there's some people out there that think it stinks.
Okay. Oh, at least okay. Absolutely. Okay. So yeah. So that would work for all kinds of balanced or for compositions. I actually think last weekend, I guess it was last weekend, there was the Mid-Atlantic Plein Air Painters, which maybe a lot of you are not involved with, or because you do pastels, but they had a demo by one of these top oil painters, and Kevin McPherson is his name. And anyway, so he gave a really wonderful demo, and it's really interesting. He uses a whole, there's a lot of people that use some sort of a structure to start their painting. And there's a lot of people that we use the golden mean, break it up into all these different things, and I think that's really good. And in my classes that I teach or that I do for the college, I will do a demo every time, and for the most part, I actually use other people's artwork because I'm trying to teach them what good composition is, good design is, and all that. And it's much harder, as you all know, just like today, taking a picture and saying we're going to make a painting of it is much harder than taking something that's already really well composed. And what I'm always amazed at is when I start looking at people's work and start analyzing it, I start seeing how what may look like it's a very carefree type of composition, how it's really built on a very strong armature. And so I am, I believe composition is everything. The only,
So do I.
well, the only thing that separates, let's see how many people are here today, right now, 22 people. The only thing that separates the 20 of us or 22 of us that are here is our idea of what composition is. Because at some point we all learn what we all can pick up the different pastels. We all have the pastels. We all, a lot of you have maybe you go to a class and they all tell you get this type of pastel. So we all have the 96 new pastels, and we all have the Rembrandt pastel. Anyway, the only thing that makes it different is our composition. And one of the things I used to do, just as a side note, is when I was much younger, I used to go on Sundays. Before I was married, single, and all that, I used to go on Sundays to the National Gallery in the afternoon because they used to be open until like 8 o'clock on Sundays. And so I would go in, I would sit on the couch in those rooms, and I'd watch people come in, and I would watch what painting they would go to, because inevitably there's one picture in the room. They kind of walk in the room, and I'd see them would kind of walk in, they'd look around all 3 walls, and the reason why I say 3 walls because there's always a way to get out. But anyway, they'd look at the 3 walls and then or 4 walls, and then they would go to a particular painting, and whatever picture they went to, that's the one I would study. And so so that was one of the big things, because there's something about that picture that everybody's drawn to, and usually it was the composition. Usually that composition was a better design or something like that, or stronger design than maybe other ones that were around it, and maybe had more value contrast, more colors, whatever it was. That's the thing I would notice. Another thing I might mention too, just as a side note, since I'm talking about museums or whatever, and looking at shows, is that unlike some people who would go maybe to a museum, the art gallery, and just look at the paintings. I would always go, when I talk about going to these Sundays, I would go with a specific purpose. Back then I was mostly doing portraits. And I would say, today I'm just going to look at eyes. And I would just go from room to room where all the portraits were, and I would look at eyes. And what would happen was, I can almost imagine like yesterday. I would look at a portrait, I look at some eyes, and I would say, oh my gosh, look what he did. And then I'd be like running around that's why it was a good thing going at 7 o'clock at night, because there weren't that many people. I'd be running from room to room to the Rembrandt era, to the Gainsborough, to the Cezanne, because what I'd noticed something. And now I want to know, okay, this is what they did 300 years ago when they eyes. Are they doing the same thing today? And sure enough, if I know, guess what? Sargent's doing the same thing. Then what I would notice is, so if I noticed that the same thing was done, all these different artists, then I say that's something important to know. And one of the things I used to pick up on was they used to always, there's that highlight right in the corner of the eye. And what that highlight, so a lot of times you'll see that there's a little speck of light right there in the corner. And it's not in the eye, it's outside of the eye. And what it is, it's the bone, your bone on your skull picking up the highlight. And so when I started noticing all these artists do it, then I would start looking for that with people. And so anyway, I would go with clear intention. Then one day it would be the nose, then it'd be the ear, then it'd be how they do folds. But that's a really good way to learn how to do stuff, is to be real deliberate about what you're going to see. Then I wasn't just aimlessly going there with the idea, I'm just going to look at pictures. I had a clear idea of what I wanted to get out of that trip. And I still do that. I'm real conscious about what I love books. I have thousands, it seems like thousands of books. I talked, so, here's that book. I can hold it up right now. Here's that book I was saying about, somebody in one of my classes the other day, I was talking about this book, and I think they looked at it. I think this is another one of those books that's like several $100s now, and it's hard to get. And but anyway, I just talk about this book real quick. I'll show you this one book. I remember I was saying about how nowadays everybody kind of knows there's all kinds of different theory on how you look and see. There's a really great book that's it's called Vision and Art: The Biology of Seeing, and it's by Margaret Livingston. And you're not going to like this book. You're not going to like this book if you don't like reading. But if you want to understand like why we see things the way we see things and all that, what I normally do when I talk about a lot of these books, unfortunately, I take them and I let people look at them, because most people, I'll just tell you right now, don't worry about writing that down, because 99% of the people are visual. And so when they talk about all this reading, I'll just say this, I'm getting way off track, but, and I might still do some little demo here, but anyway, I'll get way off track. But I have found that the best art books are the ones that were written no later than, let's say, 1930. So I have a lot of old art books that are prior to, let's say, 1930. Most of my books, don't get me wrong, I got a lot of new books. I'm always buying the new books because I want to see if somebody else has something brand new to add. But the best stuff is actually in the old books. And it's really funny because some of these old books, first off, there's nothing in color. There's no pictures. It's all reading. And it's really funny. There's one book that I have that's on light, and it's on reflections. Light reflections on the water. And it was like written at like 1907. And there are a couple pictures in there because it probably was an expensive book at the time. And the books are all those schooners, the 3-masted schooners or whatever, if there's any of them. But it's all on how you do reflections in the water. It's got all kinds of examples of little setups you can do. But the really funny thing is it starts out by saying, this book, I didn't want to go technical in this book. It's for the average art student. I'm telling you what, that book is so darn technical, you wouldn't believe. It's a real technical book. And, in my mind, it's far more technical than 99.9% of the people. But you got to remember the time it was written. The time that it was written was back when you had artists like Thomas Eakins, who would he would draw every every line of perspective for every wave and ripple in his picture, and then paint it. So when you see him do all those paintings of the scullers in Philadelphia, there's actually drawings where he had every line for perspective figured out, and he drew that in before he did, and he drew that on his painting, and those lines, and then he would paint the picture. So, but you know, most people do not go to anything near that nowadays. All right, so okay, I'm talking. Anybody have any questions? I go off on these little rabbit trails, and so
I think mentioning books is a really good idea. And Ian Roberts, you did mention Ian Roberts, Mastering Composition. That's kind of my Bible.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, like I say, you may, if you like Ian Roberts, then you may want to, you literally may want to go to YouTube, and because he's got,
I wrote it down. What he said.
well, every week, I think it's on Monday or Tuesday or whatever, he comes out with a new one. And unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of great artists. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there. Now that everything is on the internet, there is, I mean, now that all these artists are doing stuff on the internet, I could spend all my time just doing stuff on that. And as much as I like Ian Roberts, I haven't joined his thing yet, his page. So I really don't see his things, but, or very many of them, but, just because I do too much other stuff. So anyway, but yeah, he really is good. If somebody needs anything to know about, composition, then he might be one that you also want to look at.
David, I understand that you're teaching at Anne Arundel Community College.
Yes.
And I hear you, others have said, other than our society have said you're doing great. How do we get into that class?
Okay. Well, it's really, well, it's funny that you say that, because if it had been last week, I could have said right now you could sign up. But the reality is, I've just started, yesterday was the cutoff for the fall session. And so, anyway, right now I'm doing, I'll just say this.
Is that even for non-credit?
Okay, yeah. So let me just tell you, I mean, I'm not plugging the school I'm not plugging the school at all.
Right.
But anyway, under continuing education.
Right.
And it's actually not even, it's actually, I was teaching for the continuing education. Actually, I guess what it's under now is, I'm actually teaching for the senior centers. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, senior center. But the advantage is it's all on Zoom. And so the only people I'm getting are people that are A, computer savvy enough to come to Zoom. And I'm getting B, the people who really want to learn about art. So anyway, that's what I'm getting for these classes that I'm doing now.
And you're teaching pastels.
I'm teaching. I teach portraiture on Mondays, and I teach watercolor and pastel on Tuesdays, and then on Thursday I teach painting and then watercolor or pastel, whatever people want to do, and then I have another class on Friday. So I'm actually teaching 4 days a week. And so,
which days are pastels?
Tuesday afternoons.
Okay.
Tuesday afternoon is from 1 to 4. So, 1 to 3:30. I'm sorry, 1 to 3:30 on Tuesday afternoons. So now, come January, I'll just say this. So what will happen is, come January, there's going to be the, or actually, it might even be before that. The classes will start in January, but the sign up will be actually before that. But I'm actually going to be doing a drawing class on Thursdays. So that's the other thing. Thursday mornings I'm going to do drawing, because a lot of people want to learn how to draw but never really did it. But the nice thing about the Zoom, I'll just say this, is sometimes people that feel intimidated, if you're in a class where everybody's like really good, you might be intimidated to show you don't think you're up to, everybody else. And the nice thing about the Zoom is nobody has to show anything, you just do it. And anyway.
And you don't have to drive in bad weather.
That's why I love it. I'm not going to go back. They wanted me to go. I mean, they asked me to go back, and I mean, I could have gone back in person now, and a lot of people wanted that to happen, but nope. I decided that first off, eventually I'm going to cut back from the number of classes. The problem was, this is a side note. I used to do just the continuing education, and then somehow the person that was in charge of the other one, senior center thing, we actually had a cubicle behind my boss, so to speak, and heard how good I was and said, hey, will you do a class for me? And then from one class, they asked me to do another class, and then I didn't know that it would affect my other classes. And then finally, I was teaching so much for the senior centers that I had to stop that they wouldn't let me do any more classes. So I had to stop the continuing education.
Well, plenty of us are seniors, so thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, well, that's the thing. I just, it's amazing how many teachers that I get that, or people that are like, people like you all that have been doing art or whatever, and some of this stuff they've never heard. I'm always amazed at how much stuff. I kind of think everything I know, everybody knows, but I'm kind of amazed how.
So I never heard what school you taught at, and can you give the website of where you're?
Yeah, I could. I could give it to somebody, and they could put it on there. I mean, it's Anne Arundel Community College is what it is.
Okay.
And so what it is the nice thing about the Zoom is right now I have my class. When it was in person, I was limited to how many people, and so but now it's on Zoom, right? So
can anybody from other counties?
Oh yeah, I got people. I got people from other states now. So
David, somebody on chat wanted to know the URL to get to the classes.
Yeah, I just sent it to
Yeah, it's very complicated. I've been trying to get it for an hour.
Really?
Just Anne Arundel Community College.
Okay.
No, if you just look under that, you can't find it. It's like
the
senior center.
Right. But I'll just say this. One of the things that's really good is, of course, now all you are very are computer savvy enough. If you're enough to be on Zoom, you're fine, right? But the point is that they're real helpful for people that don't know how to do it. And so the sign up will be, the sign up really could all the way be to January, because what will happen is I don't want anybody that wants to be in the class not to be in it. And so, consequently, I've kept on raising my numbers for my classes, and so now my classes right now are up to like 35 people, is what I have. And the only reason why I set it 30, set that is because I didn't want people not to be in. So the only thing I worry about is if I get 100 people, then I'll let 100 people do it, because a lot of times people don't show up. But I have to admit, the one nice thing about the Zoom was people could be away. And so last winter or whatever, a lot of the people I used to have go down to Florida for the winter, they could still be there. I think they're here and they say, oh, I'm down in blah, 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 so I had people all even this summer, I had people all over the place that were on vacation that were still listening into my classes if they could. Anyway, I've really wasted this last little bit for you. Anybody else have questions?
Well, I wanted to say that you thought you only had 22 people because you were looking at the chat, when really at one point we were up to 38 people.
Okay. Well,
so we're starting to lose people now.
Oh yeah.
It's down to 28, but yeah, we really were very interested in hearing you, and if anyone does have more questions, please ask. If not, I'd like to thank you for all of this information. I mean, I'm sure everybody was like me, and I took a lot of notes, and it was just so helpful to tell us more about how to deal with our photo reference.
Okay. Well, I thank you all, and I just want to say a warm welcome to a lot of the people I recognize from way back when. And so I haven't seen you in years, but there's certain people like I see Catherine Nichols here, and I see Joyce Turk, and I see Joyce. And so anyway, like I say, it's nice to see everybody that's here that I recognize, and for anybody I don't recognize, hopefully at some point I'll be able to meet you in person. And I just hope that, like I say, you picked up at least 1 or 2 points from today. So that was my hope. So yeah.